Okay, we're going to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the May 7th, 2025 City Council meeting. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of Treaty 4 territory, a treaty signed with 35 First Nations across southern Saskatchewan and parts of Alberta, and Manitoba, and the original lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and on the homeland of the Métis. The City of Regina owes its strength and vibrancy to these lands and the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory, as well as settlers from around the world who continue to be welcomed here and call Regina home. This week, May 4th to 10th, is Emergency Preparedness Week in Canada. This year's theme is Be Prepared, Know Your Risks, encouraging everyone to understand the risks in their area, such as severe weather like thunderstorms or extreme cold, and learn what actions they can take to protect themselves and their families during a disaster. Today at 1:55 p.m., the Saskatchewan Public Safety Agency will broadcast a test of their Sask Alert system. This means that all TVs, radios, and mobile devices will receive the alert. The sound can be startling, so just be prepared and know that this is just a test. It may be disruptive, but it is a mandatory test of the emergency alert system. We want to thank the SPSA for helping keep everyone safe and encourage everyone to register for local emergency alerts at regina.ca/notify-now. Some members of City Council and administration may be attending the meeting today through video conferencing. I'd like to remind those who are attending through video conferencing of the following. Please ensure that your video camera and microphone are turned off, and when speaking, remember to unmute your microphone and enable your video camera. Can I have someone move a motion to approve the agenda at the call of the chair with the following adjustment? Add the registered list of delegations and communication CP 25-130 Tamara Chitran, Regina Energy Transition from Regina, to item CR 25-49 Transit Fare Pilot, and notice of motion MN 25-10 Smart Investments for a Sustainable Regina. Councillor Sickleys, thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Flores, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. Could I have someone move a motion to approve the minutes of the meetings held on April 9th, 2025 and April 30th, 2025 as circulated? Mover? Councillor Flores, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Burton, thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing that, I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. We'll now consider the consent agenda. The consent agenda is moved and voted upon without debate as one item, regardless of the number of agenda items included in it. The following item was automatically deemed to be removed from the consent agenda as delegations have registered to speak to it, and that's CR 25-49 Transit Fare Pilot. Therefore, the consent agenda for this meeting includes the following items: CR 25-43 2024 Preliminary Year-End Report, CR 25-44 Year-End Capital Expenditure Report, CR 25-45 2024 Annual Investment Report, CR 25-46 2024 Annual Debt Report, CR 25-47 Whistleblower Program Annual Report, CR 25-48 Appointment of Integrity Commissioner, CR 25-50 Toxic Spills Public Disclosure, CR 25-51 2024 Annual Submittal Community and Social Impact Regina Incorporated, CR 25-52 2024 Annual Submittal Regina Downtown Business Improvement District, CR 25-53 2024 Annual Submittal Regina's Warehouse Business Improvement District, CR 25-54 2024 Annual Submittal Economic Development Regina Inc., and CR 25-55 2024 Annual Submittal Regina Exhibition Association Limited. I'll now ask if any member wishes to remove any items from the consent agenda for consideration and debate at this meeting. So seeing none, Councillor Mancinelli, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see you there. Go ahead.
I do want to pull something off with just a small comment to go with it. I wanted to pull CR 25-55, the annual submittal of Regina Exhibition Association Limited. And the only reason I want to comment is doing that might cause people to come to appear in case there's questions. I don't plan on asking any questions just because it's been very public facing. I just wanted to comment on it so it didn't just go through without a comment, that's all.
Okay, so just be clear, you want to pull it off to make a comment?
Yeah, and I just didn't want anyone rushing down thinking I'd have a load of questions or a lot to say, just so I didn't cause any extra work doing that, that's all.
Okay, so we will remove it, we'll have it at the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I will look to have a motion to approve the consent agenda with CR 25-55 2024 annual submittal Regina Exhibition Association Limited removed from the consent agenda. Councillor Sickleys, and a seconder. Councillor Mancinelli, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And that is carried. So item CR 25-55 is now deemed removed from the consent agenda and will be considered by council in the agenda order at the call of the chair. Okay, we will now consider public hearing and public notice bylaws. I will ask Deputy Mayor Burton to do first reading of the following bylaws. 2025-33, the official community plan amendment bylaw 2025, and 2025-34, the official community plan amendment bylaw 2025. Deputy Mayor Burton, I'll get you to do the first reading.
Microphone. There we go. Thank you. I move, seconded by Councillor Bezo, that bylaws number 2025-33 and 2025-34 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I'll ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, first reading of the bylaws passes unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. And I will call upon the clerk to speak to the public hearing portion of these bylaws. Go ahead.
As required by legislation, the following bylaws require a public hearing. Bylaw number 2025-33, Design Regina, the official community plan amendment bylaw 2025 number 3, to amend the Design Regina, the official community plan bylaw to update policies and guidelines applicable to the development of complete neighborhoods. And bylaw number 2025-34, Design Regina, the official community plan amendment bylaw 2025 number 4, to amend the bylaw to confirm that the FW Hill Mall, Scar Street Mall, is a pedestrian-only public space. Is there anyone in the gallery today wishing to address City Council on any of these proposed bylaws? There appears to be no one, Mayor.
Thank you. So with that, Deputy Mayor Burton, I will get you to do second reading of the bylaws, please.
I move, seconded by Councillor Rasevich, that bylaws number 2025-33 and 2025-34 be read a second time.
Thank you. Does any member of council have questions? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, second reading of the bylaws passes unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton, can you please do consent for third reading of the bylaws?
I move, seconded by Councillor Seacless, that Council hereby consent to bylaws number 2025-33 and 2025-34 going to third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, consent for third reading of the bylaws passes unanimously as required by law, with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Burton, can you please do final reading of the bylaws?
I move, seconded by Councillor Fro, that bylaws number 2025-33 and 2025-34 be read a third time.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to start the vote. Just wait, Councillor Sickley's? It's okay.
Through you, Mayor, third reading of the bylaws passes unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. Okay, we're now going to hear from delegation related to the transit fare pilot. So I'd like to call upon delegation D25-109, Julianne Ridgway. Come on up to the delegation table. Okay, once you're seated and ready, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you'll have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of Council may have for you. Go ahead when you are ready.
Dear Mayor Pachusi and City Council, my name is Juliana Ridgway. I'm here for myself. I am a high school student who's supporting fare free transit program. I want to say thank you for giving 15 and under getting a fare free for city bus, as well planning a new project allowing 18 and under now. I think other students should get fare free transit. Students may have up and down in their life. Some of them may struggle to pay bus card for fare and pass that costs $86 for monthly for a bus card, or $2.75 per month for a ride. If a student could not pay, that result student being late or may not come to school at all. I went to my school and I learned how to use city bus because my house was a bit far away. If I didn't use the city bus, then it will take me 35 minutes to get there. Sometimes my bus card gets expired. When that happens, I must use coin to pay it, which is cost $2.75. Sometimes it's a bit hard for me to get $2.75 because I may not have enough to pay. I may forget my bus card expire. A rare occasion, I may have to get my sister to take me home, which is hard for her. She's the only one only one with the car in our family, and she's the she have her own life and family to worry about. If this passed, I believe that would be great for the city bus user and the future once ahead. Thank you for listening to my speech.
Thank you, Julianne. Appreciate you coming today. I'll check to see if there's any councils from my colleagues. I see Councillor Trimble. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here,
Juliana.
Julianne.
It's okay.
No, thanks so much for being here. Is it going to make a big difference in your life?
Yes, it will. If it this pass, it would make it different. I won't worry about I don't have enough to pay, or me have to text my sister saying, "Hey, come pick me up," because I ran out because I forgot my bus card just expired. This would be helpful for me and other students.
And what motivated you to come today and speak for all high schoolers like you?
I'm here for this fare free transit because I'm pretty sure a lot of people, maybe some, may have up and down in their life and that may struggle to pay it. They might have, hard time getting money, or they are doing school and job at the same time, and it's really hard to get to, point A to point B.
Well, thank you so much for being here and speaking up and making a difference. It's really appreciated.
Okay, thank you. And seeing no further questions, thank you for coming to present today. I appreciate you coming out today. You can head back to the gallery.
Yeah.
Okay, we have communications on item CR 25-49. Can I please have a motion to receive and file the following communications? CP 25-125, Kaike Duek from Better Bus Youth, and CP 25-130, Tamara Chitran from Regina Energy Transition. Motion to receive those communications. Councillor Burton, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Flores. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. So we will now consider item CR 25-49, Transit Fare Pilot, and I'll ask Councillor Fro if you could please introduce the report.
Thank you, through the chair. In our last meeting, we approved the implementation of option 2, which specifically indicated that we would be moving forward with a citywide pilot for all Johnson Collegiate students, as outlined in the report, effective September 2nd, 2025. And this matter be added to the May 13th, 2025 School Board City Liaison Committee. And of course, the reason behind that is we're looking for partnership with the school boards to share in the cost, but also the data collection to assess the efficacy of this pilot so that we can determine the success and lessons learned. That recommendation also include the approval of an implementation as it relates to a verification process for children 13 and under not accompanied by a fare-paying adult, effective July 7th, 2025. And we instructed the city solicitor to prepare an amendment to the Regina Transit Fare Bylaw 2009 to give effect to the recommendations in the report to be brought forward at a meeting of City Council, which of course is today, as well as to remove item MN 24-18 from the list of outstanding items. That was what we discussed, and that's what we'll be voting on here.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Can I have someone move the report? Councillor Turnbull, that's the one you were waiting for. Seconder, please. Councillor Mancinelli. Councillor Turnbull, do you wish to speak to the report? Okay. Okay, so I will look to any questions. I know this is one we talked about last week, but if there's any questions. Okay, seeing none, Councillor Turnbull, I will look to you to close debate. Go ahead.
I'll make this short and sweet. We've had a lot of discussion on this. I'm so excited that hopefully this goes forward in the fall at Johnson, and it's just such a big opportunity for our city to move forward with this pilot and to see the differences that can be made. Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Turnbull. With that, I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, the motion carries 9-1 with the following members voting in favor as follows. Councillors Mancinelli, Fro, Radins, Burton, Bezo, Turnbull, Sickles, Flores, and Mayor Bashinsky. And the member voting against is Councillor Bezo.
Thank you. We'll now consider item CR 25-56, Economic Development, Inc. Sorry. Oh. Okay, I'll let the clerk make a correction. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, my apologies. It was Councillor Rasevich that had voted against, not Councillor Bezo for that motion.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so now we will consider item CR 25-56, Economic Development, Inc. Appointment of Directors. I will ask Councillor Fro if you could introduce the report.
Yeah, thank you. The recommendation, as discussed last week and for consideration today, is that City Council authorize the Chief Financial Officer and Deputy City Manager as the City of Regina's proxy to exercise the City's voting rights in the upcoming Economic Development Regina membership meeting to elect the following individuals to the Board of Directors for the following terms. First, as it relates to reappointments, Michelle Brooks, May 1st, 2024 to April 30th, 2027. Phoebe DeSimin, May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2027. New appointments, Lori Ireland, May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2028. Alan Weens, May 1st, 2025 to April 30th, 2026. And as non-voting delegates, the Mayor and myself, and if I may, I suspect many of us know these individuals. These are extraordinarily community leaders, will be well served by their service to EDR, and we thank them for that service. So that's the background of what we'll be voting on here today.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. So with that, can I have someone move the report? Councillor Burton, and a seconder. Councillor Radins, thank you. And Councillor Burton, do you wish to speak to the report? Okay, with that, I will ask if there are any questions of council on this. Councillor Flores, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, just a question in relation to the appointment time until 2028. That just seems unusual.
Councillor Fro, go ahead.
I'm not sure I'm best served. I think I was maybe talking to Mark. I think that it illustrates the Mayor and I specific term, which as it relates to most of our committees is a 2-year term. But we should probably check with the clerk. I'm not sure I'm best suited to answer Victoria's question.
So they have 4 years.
So as with most of these boards, they will have staggered terms. And I suspect the Mayor and I have a 2-year term coinciding with when they do the annual call for appointments or our broader call for appointments. That's how I read it, at least.
I'm just going to let the clerk speak to this.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, usually the council appointments are done for a 1-year term, but I may ask the solicitor if she would speak to this. There may be stipulations within the agreement that indicate the terms have to be a 3-year term. And if that is the case, council can approve this recommendation. If that's not the case and they wish to make their term length for only a 1-year term, that could potentially be an option, but I would suggest that we check with the solicitor first.
Thank you, through you, the mayor. That there would be provisions in the UMA for the term length for the directors. I don't have that in front of me, but I'll ask the city manager to speak to. He has some comments.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I think there's two things to keep in mind here. One is there are staggered terms for members. With that many members on a board, the staggering is for continuity. I don't have the UMA or anything before me. I'm going to go out on a limb and perhaps suggest that maybe this was just an oversight and a mistake that was carried through on the copying of it, because the committee bylaw makes it clear that all council appointees to committees are considered on an annual basis unless otherwise specified. And I don't think this one makes any exception. So my sense is that the term should just be amended from May 1st, 2025 to December 31st of this year for the two council members. But we don't need, we'll just keep it simple.
So in order to maintain consistency from what we've just heard for those annual appointments, Councillor Burton and Councillor Radens, would you be open to a friendly amendment to align that to make it a one-year term consistent with the committee bylaw? Yeah, that's just for the non-voting councillor designates. Councillor Burton, I'll ask you first.
Yes, I move.
Okay, and Councillor Radens?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Flores, does that satisfy your question you had?
Yes, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay. Okay, Councillor Flores, the floor was yours. I see you had a light on, so go ahead if you had more to add.
Oh, no, that was all.
Okay, I just saw
Sorry,
you
I thought I
light
turned it
come
off.
on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll check one more time if there's any other questions from members. Seeing none, I will go to Councillor Burton. Would you like to close debate?
I have no comments.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll check with the clerk first to make sure we're good before we start the vote. Okay, we're good. So I'll ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, the motion carries with all members present voting in favor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, now we're going to hear from delegations related to CR 25-57 business incentive proposal. I'd like to call upon delegation DE 25-110 Blair Forrester. Afternoon. Mr. Forrester, once you get settled, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of Council may have for you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship, members of City Council. My name is Blair Forrester. I'm the president of Forrester Harvard Development Corp., as well as the president of Westera Development Corp., and we're based here out of Regina. So I am here today to speak in favor of Administration's report CR 2557 and hopefully to illustrate to you the importance of this deal to Westera, all West Side land development, and the City of Regina as a whole. As many of you are aware, or most of you are aware, I'm also the developer of the Aurora project in East Regina that currently holds Regina's only existing Costco. In 2013, when we were doing the master planning for Aurora and Westera, we commenced the neighborhood plans, and Costco was always anticipated to be the anchor for both projects. Administration's report accurately outlines the economic impact and catalyst Costco has become in helping us take an empty field on Victoria Avenue and turn it into Saskatchewan's fastest growing mixed-use retail project. At the time Costco made the decision that Regina was a two-store market, They reached out to us. We toured all available parcels of land in the city, and they concluded that Westera was the best place to house their operations. This was due to access, proximity to an underserved membership base, and being at center ice in Regina's West Side development. We executed an agreement of purchase and sale in June of 2024, and Costco began full design of the location, applied for a development permit, while we concurrently applied for a discretionary use application and concluded all engineering and transportation reports required by the city. The deal was then terminated in December of 2024, when Costco informed us that they had found a site in the same trade area at a significantly lower land cost. This site ultimately was in the GTH. Westera, however, still remains their preferred location. Westera's growth has been slow. In 2013, we invested $72 million in the neighborhood, including the payment to the city of a $20 million SAF fee. While the economy has slowed, the number one reason home builders have given us for slow sales to homeowners is the lack of amenities in the trade area. Westera residents have voiced this on numerous occasions to both administration and councillors at Kidneyach. The discretionary use public notice for Costco at Westera received 550 letters of support or indications of support. I am told this at a record. The news of the potential Costco at Westera has also had retailers and builders approaching us to secure land positions conditional on the Costco deal being concluded. At this point, we have a grocery store, another 50,000 square feet of retail, 4 multi-res sites, and 300 lots. Commitments contingent on Costco happening. That represents over $500 million of investment dollars being spent. And in addition to that, it supports the city's OCP and phasing and financing plan, which has the next 40,000 residents located in West Regina. To achieve this, the West Side needs amenities and services. This incentive plan is an investment in Regina's future that has a very short payback and will grow Regina's tax base by millions of dollars. These municipal incentives are not uncommon. The city has used or is contemplating using a wide array of incentives to assist developers. Tower Crossing is exempt from paying SAF fees, and the city front-ended services to it. This development is right across the street from Aurora. We pay full fees and full infrastructure. The city dropped the intensification levy for all infill projects. This includes new retail projects, adding those costs to the suburban SAF rate. And the city is currently investigating the front ending of lift stations to encourage developmental growth. Westera is the only neighborhood to construct its own lift station. As a further incentive to conclude this deal, we have contributed $3 million to reduce the price to Costco. This new purchase price takes the land, the acquisition cost below our cost to produce the land. I want to thank the members of administration who showed leadership and vision in working collaboratively with us to structure this incentive proposal, and I strongly encourage you to support it today. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Forster. I see Councillor Mantinelli. Go ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate the information. Appreciate the investment and the interest in our community. I think that's a real positive sign for us. Very alarmed at the information and the ask in front of us. I don't think I have a choice but to support it, but I better get to my question. Did I understand you correctly that you had a deal in hand and you were undercut by the GTH, and that's what forced this to come about this way?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through you, Your Worship, there was a agreed upon deal that we were working towards concluding. Costco does what Costco does, which is find the lowest cost platform that they can operate. And that number was at a significant discount to the price that they had negotiated with us in the city. And this incentive plan, this joint incentive plan between the city and ourselves, is intended to match the price that they secured the other parcel for.
And so if I said no today, Costco sees the value and they would show up in the GTH lands, correct?
It is my understanding they would conclude that transaction.
Okay.
Through you, Your Worship.
Your site has been cited through planning for land use to match with the consumers who would show up on the doorstep of Costco, correct?
Through the chair, yes, the site checks every box on the underserved membership base, access to that underserved membership base, and the centralized location in all the West Side development. It remains Costco's first choice for a platform to locate their business.
Appreciate that. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to phrase questions without statements coming ahead of them. It's tricky to do. You guys all know that. How many, Costco must give you specs for their store. How many visits per year would they expect consumers to make? Not the shipping for the trucking, but just the consumer visits, single car, family visits.
Well, I think that's outlined in administration's report through the chair. It's right now our Aurora site, I believe, generates 2 million visits a year.
Okay.
Obviously, they're going to be splitting the market in some degree when they open up a new location. So each some pressure will be taken off the east store, transferred to the west store. So, but it's their expectation that the overall visits in the community will grow. I think the stat that I heard was that the membership base right now in the community is split. 60% of the members are east of Albert Street and 40% are west of Albert Street. The 40% west of Albert Street have a lower frequency of visits than the 60% on the east side. And that's basically due to travel time. So hopefully we're gonna, in a perfect world, we have 2 stores doing 2 million each, but ultimately it'll probably be a hybrid of that.
Okay. So Costco sees a value investment in this part of Saskatchewan, specifically the Regina region. If I said no today, this deal would show up in the GTH. It's been triggered because they've undervalued us on land. They've undercut us on land. And with that, I'd be facing 2 million people visiting, accessing GTH lands with no planning or traffic mitigation. And on top of that, I'd be risking a provincial investment of multiple billions of dollars for intermodal shipping and basically intermixing 2 million family visits with all that shipping and carrying and goods transfer. I think that would wreck planning in our region for decades. So I really don't, I think I've asked questions. I can't say any more. Thanks, bye.
Yeah, I promise you'll have more time to speak on it, Councillor Messinelli. All good. Okay, thank you. Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Thank you, the Chair, for your presentation there. Is the placing of a Costco in the GTH part of their normal mandate?
Through the chair, I was involved quite a bit with John Law, who was, as many of you would know, was part of the GTH at its outset, and worked closely with John on trying to convince retailers to open up distribution centers for Western Canada in the GTH. At no point in time, in my opinion, was pure retail ever contemplated to be a use in the GTH. It was to lure, the reason that land is subsidized was to lure distribution, transportation, manufacturing and production companies, hopefully even out of province, to come and locate in Regina and add to our economy and add to our jobs. It's the GTH, it's a global transportation hub, not the global retail hub.
So would it be safe to say that you're quite shocked by that development or that?
Through the chair, it was not on my radar.
Thank you. You mentioned about a lot of development kind of hinging upon this development, and then more retail, more residential will go. And as you may know, there are housing issues in Regina. How many houses and in what period of time would you see being developed related to the retail and shopping and that core hub for the community being developed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Through your worship, we are in for our application right now for the next phase of Westera that contains those 4 multi-sites and the 300 lots. We virtually have commitments for all of it right now. We might be 250 of the 300 have been committed to. That is going to be with real deposits and real builders building houses. So I can't forecast the economy and how quickly they can sell those. But the commitment will be there to execute on this vision, this $500 million I'm talking about, in the very, very near future.
And through the chair, in a, let's throw it a 5-year horizon view, what could you see being developed in that period potentially of housing in particular?
Through your worship, I would be incredibly disappointed if we didn't have 300 houses, 4 multi-sites, and 100,000 square feet of retail either open or under construction during 5 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for coming here and helping develop our city. If just a little bit of history here, I guess, most of us are new to council. Before Costco was to go to Westera, and I understand it's frustrating that they weren't to go to the GTH, were they not supposed to go to Hawkstone?
Through your worship, I don't believe Hawkstone was ever a consideration for Costco.
Okay, that can be a question for administration. And then if there wasn't a Costco at Westera, have you looked at other box store options as anchors?
Yeah, thank you for that question, your worship. We, I realize it's a new council and people are new to me, but my background, I've developed 10 million square feet of retail in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. All day, every day, myself and our team are in communication with the expanding retailers in Western Canada. I can tell you that we have exhausted since 2013 every opportunity to secure a replacement anchor or an additional anchor for the Westera neighborhood. The anchor, the number of anchors that exist in Western Canada continues to decline. You know, when we started Aurora, it was to get Target. That was our proposed anchor for Aurora, and they left. You know, we've seen Lowe's exit. We've seen a substantial change in the anchor ecosystem. Obviously, e-commerce and online shopping has contributed to that in a certain degree, but at this point in time, there is no replacement anchor for Westera other than Costco.
So in that ecosystem with box stores disappearing and it becoming less, isn't that alarming to propose for the future of trying to get more box stores? Like, because you just pointed out the climate. So is it alarming?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, the Costco is one of the few, and I call them treasure hunt retailers. So that's the TGX, the Marks, the Winners Home Sense group and Costco, where it's an experience to go there. How often have you gone to Costco and said, I'll think about it, and you go back and it's not there anymore? It's got a very unique platform and model, and I believe it's one of the few platforms that are e-commerce immune and has an incredibly long runway.
Okay. And with Costco, my understanding is they are a United States-based company, and do you know if they do much for the community, such as like a Canadian Tire who builds playgrounds, and any of those incentives, like community incentives with?
I'm sorry, I'm probably not the right person to ask that question. I'm not aware of that platform. Maybe a member of administration might have some more information on that.
Okay, and so we're in the unique position with this ask, where usually in a free market, that would just sort of be between the developer and a retailer to find a site.
Just make sure we're asking questions, Councillor.
Okay, but in this context, we're sort of here. So I want to ask, do you support the city being in land development? Do you see the land development reserved to propose as financial support to your project? Like, do you see a position for us to be in land development as a city?
Through your worship, I believe the reserve was set up specifically for incentives like this. I think it was set up to incentivize developments that have catalytic effects, that have co-investment associated with them. This goes away, $500 million of ancillary investment goes away and millions of dollars of tax revenue. I think that's exactly why this platform was set up for the city.
Okay. And do you see coming back for future projects or different developments for something similar? Do you think this is a one-time, or do you think it's opening Pandora's box?
Hold on one sec. Let's just get, there's an emergency alert that we had advised of, so.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Through the chair. So this is my 33rd year in developing this community. We have never asked nor received an incentive in 33 years. We are the only company that has paid the top rates in the SAF. I think the SAF fund fees collected to date, I believe we represent 55% of them. We are the only company that's built a $12 million lift station on its own with no contribution for the city of Regina. I have never received a penny of incentives to this date, and I can assure you all, if this wasn't critical for the development of this end of town, you wouldn't see me sitting at this podium right now.
Okay. I appreciate your time. My colleagues have questions too, so I'll let them ask you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fro, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Blair, thanks for being here. I think we're likely all in violent agreement that retail at the GTH is poor economic policy. My colleague, Councillor Burton, spoke about the housing component of it. My question to you is, can you speak about, as it relates to Westera and the west end of town, how an anchor tenant fosters and spurs additional investment outside of housing, which, albeit very critical and important, is one aspect of your development. I think some additional context on the commercial development and the property taxes it may support would be useful for us to consider.
Yeah, thank you again through the chair. So the word anchor is for a reason, and it generates the traffic required for the smaller retailers to feed off that. To date, we just haven't had that catalyst to bring the traffic further out on Dudney Avenue. But, you know, I also developed the Grasslands project in South Regina. That started with Walmart as the anchor, Lowe's as the anchor. And then all the smaller retailers funnel in behind that and benefit from the traffic generated. We did the Acre 21 development in Southeast Regina in Councillor Burton's ward. The anchors were smaller there, but it was grocery and related, so that's a Save on Foods development. I can tell you that we're basically going to replicate Acre 21 in Westera off the traffic generated by Costco. 100,000 square feet, and I don't have the exact taxes generated by that for you today. I think we could get back to you on something like that, but we're talking into the multi-millions of dollars of commercial tax generated by that co-investment.
Councillor Fro, is that any other questions, or are you good? Okay. Councillor Mancinelli, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about my last ramble, but it led to the question I needed to get to. You mentioned representing in other provinces, other regions. What's going on here seems really counterintuitive. Having operated other places, what does their regional planning and cooperation look like compared to our neck of the woods?
Well, through the chair, I don't know if I have enough experience at the level that I do in Regina in the other communities that we operate in to give you an accurate answer to that. You know, it's Winnipeg, Calgary, and Edmonton, so they're bigger jurisdictions, but I don't know if I've ever come across a parallel situation, Councillor Mancinelli, that I could draw on at this point in time.
Or maybe they're set up for success, so it might not happen.
Possibly.
Follow up to that question. So if I were to say no to this deal today, and that showed up in the GTH as a good spot, would I incur millions of dollars worth of upgrades in the west side of Regina to facilitate that arrival in the GTH for how people's traffic patterns and use change on our roads for that Costco, and end up with no taxation to cover that cost? Would that be a thing that would happen as well?
Through your worship, I don't know if there obviously there would be another access required on Dudney Avenue, but I don't know if it would, I'm hoping that people are driving past our site to get to it. So I'm hoping that the traffic is somewhat the same at the end of the day. So I don't know if there would be any City of Regina infrastructure requirements that would need to be triggered to fuel the investment in the GTH.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Forster, for your presentation today. You can return to the gallery.
Thank you.
Next. Sorry, we had one more question. I will ask councillors to be proactive in their button pushing.
I needed the exercise.
Okay, Councillor Sickleys, go ahead.
Through you, Chair, I'm sorry, the synapse from here to here is sometimes slow. Hey, Blair, thanks for coming in today. I just want to make sure I understand. You dropped the land price by $3 million to bring them in. Is that what you said earlier?
Through the chair. So the delta between the two parcels of land was $10 million. The city and as part of this incentive proposal, is contributing 6.7, and we contributed 3.
And on
which
your
took the cost of the land below our cost to produce it. So we're losing money on the transaction to pull our chair up to the table here.
So just in terms of payback for us, I mean, a quick calculation of $500,000 of tax, it looks like a 13.5-year payback on the city side for their investment. Is there one on your side? Is there a payback at all?
Through the chair, no. Ours is just trying to develop the neighborhood and get the ancillary investment that goes along with it. But I believe they're capturing more taxes than just the Costco taxes in the payback of this. I think the report states that it's 5 to 7. If I'm and maybe Mr. Jedlick can comment on that later.
Yeah.
But what's not captured is the 4 multi-sites and the taxes for the 300 lots and the 100,000 square feet of commercial that the city is also going to generate. That's not included in this report.
And that was where I wanted to get to, because I think we've talked about this before. Were there 6 sort of, and I don't know if this is the right term, sub-anchors that were waiting for this to happen in order to?
Well, we've got a grocery store deal done. It's binding as long as the Costco deal goes ahead. And then we've got another 50,000 square feet of deals at the active stages of negotiation. We've received paper. Sometimes we've countered that paper, but they're happening.
Right.
And that tax revenue hasn't been allocated directly to a payback on this.
Right.
Our simple math is I think what we're talking about with that $500 million is going to generate somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 million a year in property taxes. Not necessarily allocated directly to replenishing the land fund, but that money goes away.
Yeah.
If this deal goes away.
And if this were to go to the GTH, would those ancillary sub-anchors go there, as far as you know?
Well, that's a much bigger question, Councillor, because if that was to happen, we should all be deathly afraid.
Why is that?
What's next?
Yeah.
What else? What other tax revenue do we lose as a community if that sucking sound starts to happen?
Yeah.
Councillor Sickleys, anything else?
Yeah, thank you.
You good? Okay.
Thanks.
Councillor
Sorry for bringing you back.
Blair, you got one more that popped up here.
Hey, Blair.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Hey, through the chair, I guess you can call it either an incentive or an investment on the city's part. I mean, we could categorize it that way. And I guess you mentioned other situations where the city has done, I guess, either incentives or investments. Can you give me some examples? Like you mentioned a couple. I just want to, just so that people, because I've gotten phone calls or emails that I guess we're giving away city money, but I guess I personally see it as investment, and just want to give me some examples.
Yeah. So through the chair, I call it an investment because it's got a payback and it's got a defined payback. And if it doesn't happen, so this is let's assume just for argument's sake, the payback is 5 years. You're gonna get 50 years of taxes off of that 5-year payback. The other incentives that have been given do not have a defined payback. So let's talk about quantum. Tower Crossing being waived from its obligation to pay SAF fees. Well, our first 130 acres generated $20 million in SAF fees to the city. Tower Crossing is about 400 acres. So do many multiples of that. That's gone. There's no payback on that. That's just a gift. Lift stations. We're talking lift stations now in the order magnitude of $45 million. Those get paid back as land gets developed, but there's no defined. Like here, you've got the day they open, there's a revenue stream and it's coming back in. Let's hope that the market absorbs enough land to keep that going and pay it back one day. Removal of the intensification levy and transferring that to the suburban SAF fund. Well, that was to stimulate growth in the inner city, and for all the right reasons. I'm a supporter of that. Mm-hmm. But if you develop a brand new retail center in the middle of the city, why are you getting your incentive waived? I get it for doing an apartment building or housing, but new retail projects just got handed a check in the middle of the city to compete with suburban centers for the same tenants, the same rents, everything being equal. So it's not a one size fits all. But if you take a look at the spectrum of the incentives that have been given, this one is easy compared to some of the other things that council have had to tackle in the past.
No, I just want to ask that question so that other people who are listening can hear this. Anyways, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Bezo, go ahead.
Thank you very much, through the chair. Thanks for coming today. Through a fair and open competitive marketplace, which we want Regina to be, the incentive program, the investment of the nearly $7 million, what would you say if this went to a different area, like Coopertown, Hawkstone, some other area, some other developer? What would you say if another developer came to the table, and how does this affect the potential for further developments, meaning, one developer can come and ask for $7 million and we say no to the next person, and we don't have that money in the bank. Yep. So in the future developments, if we need another $7 million, you said you've done this once without any, I'm going to say, government level intervention. Now you're asking for government level intervention where you have the ability to do it without government money.
Well, thanks for the question, and through the chair. I will compete with any private developer straight up any day of the week. What I can't compete with is subsidized land. And that's why we have this request here today. So that's the first answer. The second part of the question is, we don't pick where retailers go. All we do, retailers pick where retailers go. If Costco was here and saying we want to go to Coopertown, and the developers of Coopertown were asking for this same concession, if that's how this had played out, I would be here speaking in support of this. They picked our site after seeing all available sites, but it doesn't change the fact that we're not competing with land on an even playing field.
What is the development cost per acre for yourself, to develop the acres at $50,000, $100,000 per acre, and what is the portion for Costco?
The costs vary amongst the city, but the development costs for Westera are somewhere between $650,000 and $725,000 per acre to bring land to market.
And then is it a 10-acre lot that Costco is looking for that $7 million price tag, or
22.3 acres?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to pause. No further questions for Mr. Forster. Okay, hopefully that's the last time I make you stand up and sit down over here. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'd like to call upon Delegation D 25-111, Stu Niebergall. Stu. So once you're settled there, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, at which point members will have questions for you. So go ahead when you're ready.
Excellent. Stu Niebergall, I'm the president and CEO of the Regina and Region Home Builders Association, and I do reside in Regina. On behalf of the association, we are here to express our strong support for the administration's report recommending an investment incentive to secure the next new Costco location in the Westera neighborhood. The RHBA represents the residential construction industry in our city and region. Our members include the home builders who have been working for over a decade to fulfill the vision of Regina's official community plan, a growing, complete, and economically resilient city. We believe the proposed Costco development in Westera represents a critical opportunity to accelerate that vision. As you heard from Mr. Forrester, Westera has long been planned and engineered to support a significant regional commercial anchor, just as Costco has done for the Aurora neighborhoods in East Regina. The result of that investment speaks for themselves. Aurora has become a thriving multi-use commercial and residential hub, attracting not only national retailers, but also sustained private investment and job creation. Securing Costco as the anchor tenant for Westera will act as a long-awaited catalyst to unlock the same growth and investment on the city's west side. The lack of amenities has been a long-standing barrier to sales and development in Westera, as our members and the community have consistently raised. The Costco announcement has already triggered market response that you heard from Blair, with retailers, home builders, and residential buyers ready to invest and build, with an estimate $500 million in associated project contingent on Costco's presence. Moreover, this aligns directly with the city's growth management strategies, supporting the project in Westera, not outside the GTA, the city and the GTH, reinforces the intent of the OCP, maximizing existing infrastructure investments and projects, the long-term sustainability of municipal services. The city benefits not just in tax revenue, but also in the service efficiencies and a better community outcome. The modest short-term investments being proposed is a common practice in cities across Canada looking to secure catalytic projects that bring exponential returns in tax base, jobs, and investment. In fact, Regina has used, as you've heard, similar tools in the past, including front-ending of infrastructure, SAF exemption, and infill intensification incentives. The incentive is both reasonable and strategic. In closing, the RHBA urges City Council to approve this investment incentive and send a clear message that Regina is committed to growing responsibly, competitively, and in alignment with its long-term plans. Our members are ready to deliver on that vision, and this opportunity in Westera is a vital next step. Thank you, and glad to take any questions.
Thanks, Stu. I will check to see if any of my colleagues have questions for you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hello, thanks for coming. So my understanding is Costco is happening, whether it's in Westera or in the GTH. Would that not create spin-off in Westera for residential builds, whether it's in either location?
You know, I think in terms of that, I don't think, you know, that is necessarily the case at all. I think, you know, there would obviously be some spin-off from that area, but there was an article, I wish I, you know, and I could go back and look, it was in the New York Times about a year ago, and it was about the Costco effect in the United States, and they called it the 8-minute city. And wherever you locate a Costco, a city basically evolves around that. That's been their experience in the US, and I think we've seen that here in Canada. I think we've seen that in the Aurora neighborhood. So yes, will people drive to a destination like Costco, wherever it's located? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think it's very, I think the one thing that's very important here, there should be nothing wrong in what Costco's approach is doing here. They are making a very large investment within our city. And the decision in front of you is really about whether you want that investment within our city or within somewhere else. You know, Blair was talking about if that investment happened in the GTAs, and I think Councillor Mancinelli asked about, what kind of investments would you start to see. I could speculate that out at the GTH, you may start to see residential development starting to show up in the RM of Sherwood based on that, more so than you're going to see within the city. And, those things become long-term, very problematic for our community, that's for sure.
Okay, so.
And if you want to talk about urban sprawl, that is the true definition of urban sprawl.
Okay, so I'll leave urban sprawl to my colleagues.
Yep.
It's trademarked, not by me. So that 8-minute effect, I think the GTH would be within that 8 minutes to Wistara. So all that construction dollars and all the house dollars would possibly still go to our community, even though the Costco is not.
Yeah, I guess that would be as speculative as my speculation here, yes. Right? I think the difference is, one is an unknown. We don't know the effect of this project going into the GTH, where we have a pretty strong idea and an example of what this looks like. So it is a question of the known versus the unknown, from my view.
Is the GTH set up for residential at all?
Not in any shape, way, or form.
So it would be a pretty big speculative swing to think that the GTH would suddenly become residential.
Well, it wouldn't necessarily be the GTH, it would be the communities around that. It wasn't that long ago, less than a decade, about a decade ago, the RM of Sherwood had planned a city, literally, of 14,000 people, just actually south of Regina, pretty much abutting right up to the city's borderline there. That, of course, did not move forward, but that was their intent. So these type of things spur other investment, that's for sure.
And our construction companies and the workers doing the work, that would come from our community, whether it's at the GTH or in Regina. So it would spur on that sort of industry work that way, because that's not going to suddenly come up with companies from small communities.
No, that's skilled labor is a shortage in our community, and so that work is going to come from our community or from abroad, whatever it's going to do to fill that skilled labor need to get these projects completed. But that's, again, not just the Costco. I can't speak to that, no, but to the housing related to that, yes.
Absolutely, because Costco is coming and it will provide that either way. It's just speculative for whether it would go to.
Yeah, I guess the thing is that I would be thinking about, again, is it's the known versus the unknown. Mm-hmm. Here we have a neighborhood, Wistara, that we know has been slow, but was in phase 1 of the growth plan. That the city's intention, the developer's intention, has been to, build that community out to be complete as quickly as possible. The experience you can see on the east side of the city, that housing development happened very quickly within that area. Assuming that is going to just happen somewhere else, that would be the unknown. I mean, again, I would think that with what Blair described in terms of deals for housing, that are reliant on this project going forward. If the Costco doesn't go forward and those deals fall through, I think he mentioned 300 lots, those aren't automatically getting absorbed somewhere else within our community. Those could be absorbed within our community or out in the bedroom communities as well. So again, it comes back to the known versus the unknown. And so again, I think our support of this is a $7 million, investment, as was described, that is coming out of this particular land reserve that was built for these type of purposes, that sounds to me like a very, very low risk investment by comparison to the alternative of the unknown there.
Okay, and then so after, let's say this goes through, would you support this for other developments in other parts of the city? Would you be here endorsing them as well with similar deals?
Well, I think that is the view of council to make those decisions on a case-by-case basis. As an association, we are always going to support our members' projects. And if there is capacity within the system for the city to make investments that are going to add to more housing to our community, of course, we're going to support those decisions as well. I don't think a decision today about saying no today, because somebody will ask in the future and then you have to say no to them. I don't think that's a great framework for making a decision today.
And I guess the last thing, talking about housing, is another thing that this reserve fund could be used for is for housing. It could be being used for development or housing, and we'll talk more about that with administration. So this reserve fund could go directly towards housing projects.
Well, I guess in regards to that, I mean, again, I don't know the full makeup of those 300 residential lots. I imagine several of that is multi-unit. I mean, you have right now a Housing Accelerator Fund target that you are not on track for reaching. Peeling another 300 units out of that only makes that challenge even that much stronger. And that's a $35 million cost, if I've got that right, not a $7 million investment.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. I'm sure my colleagues have some other questions for you.
Thank you. Councillor Radens, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. We've kind of heard that, thank you for being here, by the way, and Costco is coming regardless. Okay, so why should the city give them this incentive? I mean, there's a lot to reason, I understand, but if they're coming here anyway, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, and we as a city are going to give them an incentive of $7 million to do that.
I think that is, again, a question. It's a good question, and it's one that you'll actually have to answer to your constituents, which I think is what makes it more challenging at times. At the very same time, I think you have to recognize that this was not a situation, from my view. I don't want to speak for the developer or for Costco or for anybody else, but from my view, this wasn't a situation that was created by Costco or by the developer or by the industry. This was a decision that was made by the provincial government through the GTH, to undercut, as I think Councillor Mancinelli said, a deal that was in place. I think Councillor Mancinelli, one of his questions makes a good point around regional planning. That is something that this province has struggled with since the 1930s. And it's a good example of when we don't have strong regional planning, people get in each other's lanes. So I was given an example of a whole city of 14,000 almost built on the border of Regina a decade ago. An example here. So it's a system we have in place here in our province, and we're not immediately going to be changing that. So the city has to make decisions at times where it wants its growth and development to be. And so here again, as Blair described, is a catalytic opportunity. I can't think of many retailers, and this isn't my area of expertise, that would be a bigger anchor than Costco. As Blair described, it's an incentive that actually gets paid back in a very defined period of time, and actually has a much bigger economic impact in terms of that tax base. So we can assume that if Costco didn't get there, that Westera, for example, is going to be built out someday. But it matters if it's built out in 10 years or in 50 years, and it matters to your tax base on that same number, because that grows exponentially. So again, from our perspective, this is I know it seems like a lot of money to many people and the average citizen, but in the grand scheme of city building, this is a very small number.
Okay, thank you. So we kind of, some of my co-counselor had mentioned a similar question, and I guess I just want to put it to you, and does it really matter where it's built? They're coming here anyways, right? And so I think you've already answered my question in regards to that. I think the previous speaker had mentioned 33 years. There hasn't been an incentive like this, and so what are your thoughts about that and setting a precedence for future developers coming and asking the city for an incentive like that? But perhaps I can ask this administration that as well.
Yeah, so my response to that would be again very similar to that I mentioned to Councillor Turnbull, that again as an association we're going to support our members' projects, and if there are opportunities within the city's capacity to make investments that make sense for housing development, we are always going to be here supporting our members in those particular requests. Again, the fact that you may get asked these questions or these requests in the future is not a reason to not approve a request like that today. You need to look at these on a case-by-case basis, and if they on a standalone basis make sense, which we believe they do, this particular one does, and the next one may or may not, and you and a future council and an administration can evaluate those.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Massanelli, go ahead.
Thank you. Regina Home Builders Association, there's a Canadian Home Builders Association you have an allegiance to as well, correct?
We're part of the National Association as well, yes. But we are independent. We think of us like Canada. It's like a federation.
Okay. With that, do you share information, get together and share war stories?
We do that a lot, yes.
Looking at your comments on the regional aspect we've talked about today, and trying to think of planning through all the different things that show up in the media, from tariffs to trade wars, interprovincial cooperation. Are there any other regions across Canada that you've encountered that have situations like we're encountering right now for that type of encumbrance in regional planning? I'm just looking at what I've read, and I haven't had a lot of encounters, but it sounds like we have about 10 times the amount of regional politicians in Saskatchewan than the rest of Canada. Is that what you've encountered across Canada as well?
Yeah, I mean, Canada is like these subjects represent Canada very, very well. Every province has its own jurisdictions, and so it is a quilt, a patchwork quilt across the country, all with different regimes. I think again, don't quote me on the numbers. They're to make a point. I think we have about 600 to 700 rural municipalities, certainly over 500 in our particular province, where I think Alberta has about 130 counties, and I don't think Ontario, with its massive population, I don't think it has 200 different regional authorities. Also, in their provincial acts, many of them have much more regional planning requirements. The former executive director of community development in the Ministry of Government Relations, Ralph Leibel, was once telling me about a report from the 1930s that to the government that said the amount of municipalities in Saskatchewan is unmanageable, And, you know, in what is that, 90 years, we haven't moved that chain forward an inch. So why that matters is, no, we're not a province strong on regional planning, and so things like this become a cost because we haven't been able to move that forward in these past 90 years. But it is the price of doing business and of doing business successfully within our province. You can only be so upset with the GTH in terms of its decision here, because they're just out there trying to make a sale, right? Like anybody else is in the marketplace, not necessarily understanding the impacts that this has to the wider region and the impacts to the city of Regina. So yes, wherever you put a Costco, people are probably going to go. But this would be disruptive to the planned housing plan, you know, of the city of Regina and our industry, as because this was never anticipated.
Just to give context, I guess it sounds like we stand in our own way. With 5 times the amount of decision makers coming to the table, our regional aspect in Saskatchewan causes us to compete with each other to something you're describing in other provinces where they have less players on the table. Is that kind of a way of summarizing it?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your answers.
Thank you. Councillor Siklees, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Thank you very much for coming today, Stu. And good morning, or good afternoon, sorry. You're familiar with Chris Gorette, the CEO of the Saskatchewan Realtors Association, I'm assuming?
Yes, I am.
I just met her for the first time a couple days ago, and she gave me some statistics that I thought were pretty interesting. There are 457 total homes for sale in this city, and there are 470 agents selling them. Our inventory is down. We've set a new record benchmark price of homes, 5% over last year, up from 326.3 to 335.5. So what I'd like to ask you is, for the people who are listening, instead of grilling you on Costco yes or no, I'd like to talk to you as the head of the Home Builders Association on the 300 homes that are going to go in. Can you give us an idea of the types of homes, sizes, styles? You know, what can people look forward to if this thing starts to take off the way we think it will?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have for starters, I've worked with Chris Gorette for a very long time. We used to be counterparts. He used to run the Saskatoon Home Builders Association, and is one of the brightest people related to housing that we have in the province. So you should take any comments or advice that she has, very sound. From my perspective, and the SRA does a great job and provides tremendous data for the industry. So speaking to the type of homes that will go in there, you know, I don't have the specifics on what that would look like, but I do, you know, look towards Aurora and you know, the Greens on Gardner and Eastbrook, and say, that most likely has a lot of similarity to that. And, you know, it is less, you know, it is more about the continuing growth patterns that our city has become accustomed to, you know, within the OCP. And I think that's a very, you know, that's a very good fit for our city.
Thanks, Stu.
I don't know if I really answered that question.
Well, I'm imagining the houses in the East End, and there's a mix of, you know, detached, semi-detached, small, big, you know, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, what I would say, you know, in addition to that, you know, to Chris Gorette's, you know, numbers, there's not a month that goes by we are not hearing from the SRA, or mostly her, you know, her members, realtors asking us, when is our industry going to start building more homes?
Yeah.
And that fits into a broader question, but does dovetail into this. Our industry, if we're going to continue to grow, our industry needs serviced lots.
Yeah.
Within the marketplace. So again, a project like this doesn't go forward. Maybe those homes start to get built elsewhere. But again, it's disruptive enough to the marketplace and the servicing of those lots. If we don't see land come into place, more land come into place in 2026, by then, which we may not have right now at this moment, we are going to have a crisis in 2027. Again, a disruption like this does not help that number whatsoever.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Beazle, go ahead.
Thank you very much to the chair. Hey, Stu, thanks for coming in and having discussions. I'm going to say that some of the dilemmas that we have sitting as council today is discussing the land deal of the value of the land deal and the location of Costco. Councillor Jobin mentioned it's going to get built regardless. If we look at Saskatoon, Calgary, they have Costco's in industrial park and hasn't infringed or hampered any of their other developments. Can you just comment on, I'm going to say Saskatoon is an equivalent to ours. It's in a very much industrial area and there's no residential around that area.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with Saskatoon, from that perspective. And I think to your point, wherever a Costco goes, and it's going to attract consumers. I mean, my wife and I, we love Costco. I think we have a hot dog and a drink there every Thursday or Wednesday, and so it's a destination for us. And they certainly have got no shortage of our household spend. So to your point, we're going there wherever it's located. But every single city has its own particular growth patterns, which are impacted by the level of growth that you're going to see in that community. And quite frankly, Saskatoon has been growing at a faster rate than Regina. And Calgary, I mean, it has been on fire for almost a decade now. So, when you have that level of demand, yes, people are going to go where they are going to go, where they can get access to those serviced lots, right? We're not growing that fast here in Regina, right? Again, one of my chief concerns will be within our kind of framework here is, the Costco in the GTH, which again, we'll all still go to Costco, but how does that impact, the development patterns, within the region? Again, I could certainly see that leveraging, now making lands outside of the city of Regina more desirable to invest in, to develop into residential development, and that is not something we're calling for as an association at all.
Thanks, Stu.
Yeah.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you, Stu, for your presentation today. You can return to the gallery. Okay, I'd like to call upon Delegation D 25-112, Rick Gronfeld. Come on down to the delegation table.
Good afternoon.
Once you're seated, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you'll have the opportunity to respond to any questions council members may have for you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
My name is Rick Grunewald. I'm Vice President of Pacesetter Homes, and I'm a resident of Saskatoon. Good afternoon, Mayor Bashinsky and members of council. My name is Rick Grunewald, VP of Pacesetter Homes, one of Regina's largest home builders. I'm here today to strongly endorse Costco's proposed West Era location and the Economic Development Incentive Agreement. With over 30 years in land development and home building across Western Canada, I've witnessed firsthand the transformative power of anchor tenants like Costco. When we brought the second Costco to Saskatoon in 2016, it wasn't just about one store. It sparked an entire commercial ecosystem. Within months, we saw new medical clinics and dental offices, popular restaurants and pubs, specialty retail stores, and service businesses like insurance providers and dental. Most importantly, the employment and customers to make the area thrive. This is what we call commercial convenience, the critical mass that makes communities truly livable. And contrary to some concerns, Costco doesn't crowd out small business. It creates opportunity for them to thrive by bringing thousands of potential customers to the area weekly. For Westera, this is our missing piece. Pacesetter has been committed to this community since day one with Forster Harbour, but we've been held back by the lack of commercial amenities. With Costco as an anchor, we're prepared to triple our home building output in Westera immediately. We'll accelerate delivery of much needed housing inventory. We'll help them complete a walkable neighborhood that Regina families want. Regina faces two critical challenges today: a severe shortage of available lots and the need for smart revenue positive growth. This project solves both. I urge you to support this recommendation and help us build a Westera and a Regina that works for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks for being here today. I see a couple questions. Councillor Sickley's, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. At the risk of being repetitive, maybe I should have waited to ask you the question that I asked Stu. Can you tell us what kind of houses, price points, amenities you're looking at putting in there?
We would do everything from townhomes for the types that we do. We do townhomes to up to homes to 2,300 square feet. We consider ourselves a production home builder.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for being here. So with housing, I'm sure that like Costco would be coming. So would you be happy to build houses in Westera, or if the GTA suddenly became residential, would you be happy to build houses there too?
We would still carry on building in Westera for sure, but not at the pace we're planning on. It's not, I don't feel that it's just about Costco. It's about all these other businesses that come along with it, right? That employment for all of these smaller business, they do come. They're right behind.
Okay.
So we would, yes, we would build still, but not at the pace that we'd be able to really, the homes are not as saleable.
What would make the homes not as saleable?
It's because that retail and that commercial area, again, it's not just Costco, it's what Costco brings with it. So everybody wants that convenience of just walking out their door, walking, a kilometer down the road or 500 meters down the road, and there's the restaurants and everything like that. That's not going to happen without that anchor tenant.
Okay, and would you be happy to build homes wherever the anchor tenant happens to be, whether it's in the east end, the west end, the north end, the south end? Would you be happy to build homes wherever the Costco is?
We are building throughout Regina right now. We would carry on. We have a lot of success on the east side, and it's based on a lot of commercial in that area. So that convenience is there for those residents already.
That's Ward 4 and Ward 5.
Sorry?
Oh, never mind.
Oh.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, if the Costco is coming and the houses follow the Costco, does it really matter to you where you are building the houses?
So Councillor Turnbull, I think you've asked that question three times.
Okay.
It does matter because it actually doesn't necessarily matter to me, but it matters to our buyers, right? If our buyers are wanting to be in there still, then they'll come. But Costco being away from Westera would limit the attraction of Westera.
Okay. And I think that is my only, I'll let other people ask questions. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Rasevich, go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair, just wondering from your experience, in terms of, I guess, incentives or investments, have you been involved with anything with the city, with, say, your company or some other companies that you know?
I think it needs to be stressed. Costco is, like Blair said originally, Costco is its own animal, right? They'll do what they want to do. They negotiate differently with every area, and they're looking for their best options that are on the table, right? I think for Costco, their preferred location is in Westera, and that's where they want to be. So I haven't seen it directly where the city has put money on the table, but I do feel that it's a great investment for the city.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. 7 million to potential 500 million. It's pretty good.
Exactly.
I'd put money in that. But I was wondering, like, as your company or other housing companies, has the city been involved, like whether, I meant like an incentive?
There's always tax incentives that come along with those types of things, right?
So we have done.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So this isn't totally.
This is not abnormal, no.
This is not
by
abnormal.
no means. There's just different ways of incentivizing.
Okay. That was what I wanted to get across. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you for your presentation today. You can head back to the gallery.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we are going to take our mandatory 15-minute break, so we'll be here, we'll say right at 3 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, if folks could take their seats, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. Okay, next I'd like to call upon delegation DE 25-113, Stephen Shellentine. So once you get situated, I'll give you the same spiel. You'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you'll have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of council may have for you. Go ahead once you're ready.
Excellent, thank you. Hello, my name is Stephen Shellentine. I am a resident of Westera in Regina, Saskatchewan, and I'm in favor of the business incentive proposal. As a resident of Westera since 2017, my family and I have been waiting patiently for the commercial development in the neighborhood to get started. Knowing that there's an opportunity for Costco to be the anchor store for the commercial development is exciting. As a Costco shopper myself, it's one of the few brick and mortar stores left that provides an experience that you do not get online, and one of the few large retailers that I myself still frequent instead of getting items delivered. It's the ideal candidate to provide a customer attraction and support to surrounding commercial developments with both local and franchise retailers. As a resident of Regina, regardless of neighborhood, it would be disheartening if council does not approve this plan and we see Costco move outside our city to the alternative proposed site. We would be passing up on the unparalleled economic impact and support that Costco provides as a retailer, and the first domino to fall in the build-out of a great new neighborhood in our beautiful city. In conclusion, I have a strong belief that this proposal makes sense for the city of Regina, and I believe that this incentive plan is a responsible use for the land development reserve. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I will check with my colleagues to see if anybody has any questions. Okay, Councilor Rastovich, go ahead.
Through the chair, I guess you're a resident there. Have you talked to your neighbors and other people in the area, and can you, relay, your feelings as a community?
Speaking on behalf of the community, I would say that there's disappointment right now with the lack of commercial. Everybody was sold on the walkable neighborhood that the idea that Costco is going to bring. It's more than just Costco, I believe. I believe it's that once Costco lands, we will see the local establishments open up. We'll see the franchise options open up. We'll have more in our community that is just going to provide an awesome space for people to live in. So I think giving us the Costco would then appease a lot of the neighborhood that's been disheartened with the lack of commercial there thus far.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Mancinelli, go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming as a delegation. As a resident of Regina in Saskatchewan, listening to how this deal has come about, how does it make you feel knowing we're fighting against ourselves for a business that wants to invest here either way?
It's a hard question to ask or answer. Sorry.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
But yeah, I mean, as a resident of Regina, I would be, again, as I wrote, I'd be disheartened if we let that economic impact go outside of our city to the GTH. I think that we have an opportunity to bring in an excellent store and then, bring in an excellent store and then realize the tax dollars that the surrounding stores and then the additional residential will all bring, as the numerous other people have stated.
Knowing that we're planning for the future with investments such as this, and that we could break up the whole regional planning by allowing this deal to appear somewhere else, does it give you confidence in the future planning for our region if we don't rectify that?
Sorry, can you state the question again?
So hearing the story today at council, a municipality and an entity all in the same neighborhood, neighbors and friends, fighting over the same deal, the effect on planning, does that seem like stable future planning? Does that seem like something that really has to be fixed for success?
No, it doesn't seem stable, and yes, it definitely needs to be addressed.
Were you aware of anything like that happening in our region before today? Or this instance?
So before I read the report, no.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for asking you weird questions.
No, that's totally fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zakidniak, go ahead.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you for being here today. I am the councillor for West Era. So I just wanted to touch base with you about the walkable neighborhood component that you mentioned. So there was a question, I'm going to ask you your thoughts on this, about, well, if there is a if Costco opens up at the GTH, doesn't West Era still get some of the same benefits? We've heard that some folks say, no, they don't think so. What is your response to that? Like, if the Costco opens up at GTH, wouldn't West Era still get some of the same benefits? What are your thoughts?
So I believe we've heard from the other delegates here today that no, it does not in fact get the same benefits. And I think that you potentially lose out on the surrounding commercial and the promised residential boom that we're expecting to see. So I would say that we've heard it pretty soundly that it does not.
Right. Okay. And then in terms of the walkable neighborhood that you are looking forward to, that the residents of West Era have been looking forward to for years, because we know we've heard and you agree that there's not the same benefits for for Costco opening up in GTH. What would that do to the potential walkable neighborhood that we have seen? Other folks, other deals, that are contingent on Costco. So what happens if Costco goes to GTH? What happens to this dream of a walkable neighborhood? Do you see it materializing, or who knows?
I think who knows would be the appropriate answer, but I think it'd be reasonable to assume that it's exponentially delayed if it does to continue to go through.
And in all the years that you've seen, that you've lived in, I can't remember, how long did you say you lived in West Era?
It's been approximately 7.5 years.
Have you seen any other development proposals such as this come forward? This one that we're so close to is, some folks think there may be other opportunities. Have you seen any?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, thank you for your presentation today. You can return to the gallery. Okay, so we have communications on item CR 25-57. Can I have a motion to receive and file the following communications? CP 25-126, Mitch Molnar, Mitchell Developments Limited, CP 25-127, Brent Soberg, Havana, CP 25-128, Chris Lane, Economic Development Regina, and CP 25-129, Jared Lacoste. I get a motion for that. Councillor Sickleys, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Mancinelli, thank you. I'll call the question. Any opposed? And carried. We will now consider item CR 25-57, Business Incentive Proposal, and I will ask Councillor Fro to introduce the report, please.
Yes, thank you very much through the chair. Today we will discuss the recommendation from administration, which is that this council approve the City of Regina entering into an economic development incentive with Costco Wholesale Canada on the terms and conditions as outlined in our package. Then authorize the city manager or their designate to negotiate and approve any other commercially relevant terms and conditions, any amendments to the economic development incentive agreement and ancillary agreements and documents that may be required to give effect to the economic development incentive agreement, provided the same does not substantially change what is described in the report. Will authorize the city clerk, should this pass, to execute the economic development incentive after review and approval by the city solicitor. Then approve the transfer of $6.78 million from the Land Development Reserve to fund the City of Regina's Development Incentive Grant as contemplated by the Economic Development Incentive Agreement. We would then direct the transfer of an amount each year into the Land Development Reserve based on the municipal portion of the property taxes collected. The property is located at 8201 and 8701 Dooney Avenue until such time as the amount transferred equals $6.78 million. Lastly, we discussed in private at executive committee at a high level this report, and in particular, we received presentations from Blair, representing Forster Harvard Development Corp., who of course was here today, and Walter Kaczynski, representing Costco Wholesale Canada at that time. So that's what we'll now discuss.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Can I have someone move the report? Councillor Fro, thank you. As a seconder, Councillor Radens. Councillor Fro, would you like to speak to the report?
I do, yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair, I think it's important that we all acknowledge the importance of Westera. It's a good development. It's important for our community. We need the investment. We need the housing. Costco is also welcomed by residents in our community. They're a strong corporate citizen. They pay a living wage with benefits. It's clear Regina residents want Costco in Regina. Most of my career has been in economic development, and in my estimation, firm-specific incentives are not typically good economic policy. We want to drive specific incentives to a sector, to infrastructure, to broader community objectives. And so I think after today, we need to recalibrate and really carefully think about how we give scarce public dollars to private industry. And respectfully, I'm not sure I see great alignment with the incentive framework as illustrated. So we do know that Westera was good enough as a location to entice Costco, and that's because Westera is a great development. Where we found ourselves, however, today is facing the precedent of this firm-specific incentive, but really what we're doing is facing the precedents, which I hope will never be repeated, of multiple levels of government competing against each other for local investment. So the purpose of the GTH is to be an intermodal facility and to attract high-value industrial investment. And GTH is an important asset. There's lots of really good stuff going on there. The reason why land is cheaper at the GTH, in part, is because we as taxpayers subsidize that land and subsidize the services. So my hope is the provincial government will make Regina taxpayers whole by partnering with us on shared and common objectives, whether that be investing in infrastructure or other opportunities that support all businesses and all residents. We have an obligation to taxpayers to make them aware that this incentive was not needed until 8 months ago. I don't think anyone around here was wanting to show up today and allocate $6.8 million of public money. We've thankfully heard from the provincial government that they have an interest in working and partnering with us, and I'm grateful for that. But I think today will be an opportunity to reset and be very specific in terms of how we intend to collaborate and partner. So I guess in closing, we absolutely need Westera to thrive. We need the ancillary investment that will support housing and commercial investment. I hope the city is never put in a position where we have to compete with the provincial government again. And I will be supporting this motion, but acknowledging that we've all been put in a hard spot. Regina taxpayers have been put in a hard spot. Costco is welcome in our town. Westera is a good investment. It's unfortunate today, though, that we're making this decision, in my estimation.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. So with that, I will open it up for any questions that council may have from administration. I'm just going to check with administration. Was there anything, opening comments or otherwise, that you were wanting to make, or do you want to just go straight to questions from councillors? Questions? Okay, so we'll go straight to questions. I see Councillor Bezo. Go ahead.
I'd like to ask for us to be in camera first.
Okay, I just need to know for what purpose.
Pertaining to this topic.
Through you, Mayor. In order for us to go in camera, Councillor Bezo, we would require a little bit more detail as to the reason why you're wanting to go in camera to determine if it's appropriate to go in camera.
Yeah, certainly pertaining to precedent setting around this and the legalities with precedent setting.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bezo. Can I get a seconder to go in camera? Councillor Turnbull? Is anyone opposed? No? Okay, we will briefly go in camera. Okay, thank you for your patience. So just before we get started, we received legal advice pertaining to the risks related to precedent setting and no decisions were made. So I'll go back to Councillor Bezo. The floor was yours before we went to in camera, so the floor is still yours.
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration, what subsidies does the city provide to the GTH? Reduced fees?
Ms. Bryden?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have agreements with the GTH to provide fire service. We have an agreement to provide assessment and property tax service. And we have a servicing agreement fee agreement with the GTH to provide water and wastewater services.
And are any of those services provided below market rate?
Through the mayor, the fire and tax and assessment services are at a cost recovery rate, I believe, and the infrastructure servicing agreement fee rate is structured differently than our servicing agreement fee policy that we use for internal developers. And if I may, I would ask Mr. or Ms. Dawson to expand on that further. Or Mr. Jedlick.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. The user pay model is utilized in the GTH, whereas for our lands within the city jurisdiction, we use a model based on future growth and costs contributed to the infrastructure required for future growth and not just on user pay service. So it's substantially lower in the GTH.
Okay, through the chair, when somebody buys at a local store, the city doesn't get any sales tax, but the province gets PST. Could somebody explain to me if I buy online from Amazon, is there less taxes going to the province than if somebody was to pick up an item at the local Costco?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, so the tax collected by the province wouldn't be dependent on where it's at. So if Amazon stuff would be charged GST, the same as a local establishment, bricks and mortar establishment.
And PST as well?
Yeah, PST, yeah.
As well. Okay, thank you. I've got a lot of concerns about how we got to this place here. The administration has done their job and they've done it well. I'm very supportive of the work that they've done and defended the city and worked forward to get a retailer that the residents of Regina do really want to see in place and to make their lives, make Regina the most livable place it can be by shopping at some of these locations here. But I am greatly concerned about the one of our regional entities now using some of our subsidies to then reduce costs and go outside their swim lane. And I want to see this development proceed, and I'm going to be supporting the motion. But in the future, if some of the regional entities step outside their swim lane again, I'd be in favor of cutting off any kind of support or things we have that are subsidized. And as I said, I think I'll say it would be go ahead, make my day. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask some of the questions that I had. So can, just to confirm, the dollars to make this deal happen are coming from a land reserve. There's no increases to property tax as a result of this deal. Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Just through you to chair, correct. This is coming out of the land fund reserve and no impact to the mill rate. And then we expect a payback period back into that fund over 7 years.
Thank you. And then, so after that payback, we get all of that tax revenue going forward.
That is correct. So after the payback period, those funds would become general revenue funds and we could use those to pay for city services.
Thank you. And then one more question around infrastructure. So if the Costco was to go out at the GTH, what would the infrastructure or potential infrastructure impact be with vehicles going out to the GTH, and what impact would that have on our ability to maintain that? Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thanks for that question. Through the chair, currently our servicing agreement fee model outlines who pays for major infrastructure projects supporting growth within the city. And so what that means is our developments, as they develop, they pay servicing agreement fees. Those fees pay for major infrastructure upgrades. The GTH does not pay that similar fee. And so I'll use an example of, increased traffic requiring us to expand Dewdney, for example. The city or that model would be paying for that expansion, and there would be no contribution from the GTHA to support that growth in traffic.
Thank you. So with that, I'll just finish my piece saying I'm in support of this recommendation. How we got here is not ideal, and I expect there'll be many further conversations with the GTH and our provincial partners to make sure that this doesn't happen again. But with that, I am in full support of this motion because the impact to our city, not just Westera, not just the west side of the city, but the entire city, is very clear in the work that's been done by administration, and the impact is a positive one. So thank you for all your work on this, and I will look to the next councillor with questions, which is Councillor Flores. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, not really a question. I just want to share a statement. I also am in support of the recommendation by administration, but I want to state for the record my profound disappointment and the circumstances that led us to this point. It's very disappointing that we're put in a position where we have to use our reserves to secure this development. It comes as no surprise to me that a private corporation like Costco is going to go wherever is cheaper. It's expected from them. But my greatest disappointment is with our provincial government, and it's troubling to see that they would foster a competitive environment, particularly through the GTH land, that effectively pitted Regina against a very unfair advantage position and forced our hand into this incentive. And I acknowledge that these funds are expected to be recouped, and that is good news. Again, one of the reasons why I do support this. But I fundamentally object to the principle at play here. It's frustrating that $6.8 million have to be allocated in this manner when so many other city priorities don't have the same type of funding. Projects aimed at enhancing community safety, well-being, things like that, they just don't have access to this type of multi-million-dollar funding. So while I will be supporting this with great disappointment, and I just want to state that for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Radens, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank administration for the work that you have done on this. And I equally echo the sentiments of Councillor Flores. And yes, I will support this move, though it's with a lot of angst, I say, that a multi-million-dollar conglomerate is, wanting an incentive. And so, again, there's a lot of areas in our city that needs incentives to, grow and develop and make it beautiful. But I see this as a step in, a positive direction for our city. And so, but I do want to go over some of the things that we've talked about that are benefits to our city, just so that folks in the community understand what those are. And so we talked about development and building and growing our city in terms of housing, right? Infrastructure, we've talked about that. That's a plus. Tax revenues. So there are some that are also missing in terms of jobs. And what else is there? There is more. And I want them all to be listed if we can please do that.
Is that for Mr. Jedlick? Okay. Go ahead.
Through the mayor, I would start off by saying I've had the pleasure of listening to Cadmus Delorme speak, a couple times in the last few months, and he's said it's important that we keep our economic horses healthy to pull the social cart. And this is a little bit of that in my mind, in my opinion, where an entity like this can provide property taxes and the employment that help then with other services that the city may be involved with. So when we looked at the economic impact, it is a capital spend of about $60 million to construct the store, and it will create 300 jobs at opening, which is anticipated to grow as traffic to the store increases. The property taxes, just the municipal taxes, so not library or school, are anticipated to be around $500,000 at opening to the city. And then what we looked at as a sort of case study was how the Aurora development built out, which, because it's somewhat in isolation in its current location, the surrounding development that occurred there, just from a retail standpoint, over the past 5 years, also provided another $500,000 in annual property taxes on the municipal portion. So that's how we calculated the payback model. We didn't incorporate anything to do with the residential build out and the acceleration of the residential build out. But certainly that was the economic side of it. I think when administration reviewed this, we looked at the economics, but we also looked at community building, and I'll perhaps turn it over to Ms. Dawson to add some of the community building context to it.
Yeah, thank you, through the mayor. And I think you heard from one of the delegations who lives in the community is that we strive to have complete neighborhoods that have access to services and access to daily needs, access to employment and housing. And within the West Era neighborhood, there's been attempts to change or shift the way that that commercial is delivered to the community. And it's been really difficult to attract throughout the last couple of years. And I think that this, from a community building perspective, will start to see those pieces become more complete as we see jobs and the other services that we would anticipate co-locating in these areas be delivered within the community.
I will also add in as well that having an anchor located at a corner like this with at Pinkey Road and Dewdney, it's expected that the traffic that is drawn to that site also helps make development on the lands to the north and to the west, which are active developments or proposed developments with both Kisakus First Nation and Zagame First Nation more viable, simply because of the draw that is now going to be coming into this area.
Thank you. Councillor Rasevich, go ahead.
Through the chair. I know I asked some of the delegates, but just kind of wondering, we're giving, 6.7 here to Costco, but what other types of incentives or, I guess, investments have we given to other, developers in the city? Do we have some numbers? I'm just kind of curious. Obviously, we've done this before. Some precedent's been set.
Who'd like to take that one? Mr. Jedlick, go ahead.
Through the mayor, the most recent incentive package that was provided was to Viterra, which was a combination of discounted land price because the plant was actually proposed to be constructed on city land, and so the city land was sold at a discount to market. There was a tax abatement of 5 years provided, as well as the city agreed to provide infrastructure extensions out to the Viterra property, which were in the neighborhood of 9 million, and then make contributions towards some of the rail improvements. And so that total incentive package had a value of around $24 million.
Okay. Thank you. And then obviously we do some other tax abatements in the city. We have other things we have done for other developments, I suppose.
Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thanks. Through the chair, without getting into any great detail, we do have some existing policy related to housing. And we also have had revitalization grants and property tax exemptions. Okay. And actually we have a report coming forward next week that speaks more directly to some of that as well. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. And then another question I guess I have. I know we have our Land Development Reserve Fund, and we have other monies in the city that we invest. I've kind of heard that total could be 300 million. And I guess somebody tell me what did we make? What kind of return did we make on that money?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. So our investment income in 2024 was 24 million on roughly $300 to $350 million worth of investments.
Yeah, so 8%. I guess I kind of look at, I look at this investment as 7 million. And some of the numbers I've heard is a return of 500 million. So we're talking a 700% return. I'm just giving some context here to what we're trying to do as a city. And again, I would be totally against this if it was a mill rate increase, just to make that clear. But when you have money that's set aside for development, I think, this is going in the right direction. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for your work on this. I just have some questions I want to ask. Originally I'm sorry, I'm new to the history. Was originally Costco was meant to go on Hawkstone, is that correct? And then it got moved to Westera?
Can anybody want to speak to that? Ms. Bryden, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I believe when Costco was pursuing a second opportunity in the city, they looked at various land locations. And I can't speak for Costco and which parcels of land they were looking at specifically. And Mr. Jedlick may have more to add on that. I'm not sure.
Mr. Jedlick, go ahead.
Yeah, just to echo Ms. Bryden's comments, they would have looked at multiple parcels, all through the north and through the west side of the city, and ultimately they settled on this area, and so that was their decision to be in this area.
Okay. So like a property like Hawkstone, for example, would be City of Regina owned versus a developer owned. Is that correct?
Go ahead.
Through the mayor. The city does have land in the Hawkstone area, but the city has also sold land suitable for commercial development to Cowessess First Nations. That was a decision of the previous council, and that just closed. And so Costco did not approach the city as a land owner to investigate the parcel of land that the city owns in the Hawkstone area.
Okay, and then I have gotten questions, for example, from Ward 5 from Tower Crossing, which is already asking if the same incentive would be used for other box stores within our city in other wards. How would you respond to that?
Through the mayor, typically the city does not get involved in a retailer's decision as to what location they want to select within the city. I think this is an incredibly unique opportunity where you have a major anchor tenant that is considering locating inside the city's jurisdiction or outside of the city's jurisdiction. And there are, when you're dealing with businesses that require full city services, so that means full water, wastewater services, water at a pressure that provides fire protection, those sorts of entities can't just locate in the RM because those services aren't available in the RM. And so this is a situation where they did find a location, outside of our jurisdiction. And so that's where, the city has engaged looking at the economic benefit. I think, quite frankly, as administration, we would look at any opportunity if other proponents are coming forward, that would be something that EDR may be involved with and, part of their competitiveness framework. But that framework provides the guidance as to whether or not city would get involved or not.
And what is the money from the land development reserve supposed to fund? What is its mandate?
Through the mayor, I'll just read this off. The primary purposes of the Land Development Reserve are to provide funding for the acquisition and development of land held for resale by the city and to smooth the effective fluctuations in the operating budget for the land and real estate management operations. But the administration bylaw does provide city council discretion to approve other transfers.
Okay, so that could be used for commercial or residential or really any sort of development?
Through the mayor, typically we've utilized the Land Development Reserve for land development projects like the towns, where those are done at market to generate more revenue for the city. Recognizing that there are also land development projects that the city may undertake, such as the yards in Taylor Field, that require investment beyond the revenue that will be received. And so within the land development and disposition strategy, recognize that the city owns different types of land, some that money can be made on, and others that require an investment that will bring community benefit. And so that would be something like Taylor Field or the yards.
So I guess the question is what will we not be getting with that $7 million? Would it be the Taylor Field or the yards or other projects? What would not happen?
Through the mayor, I guess at this point in time, there's money that sitting in the Land Development Reserve. There was a transfer back from some money that had been set aside for infrastructure extensions to Viterra, and knowing that project had been has not received full approval from Viterra, and that those funds would not be required in the near term. So a bit of it is a cash flow management standpoint. So, those funds were already sitting in an operating account, and they were transferred back into the LDR, to be made available should council wish to pursue this opportunity.
You mentioned the yards. Would this affect the yards project or any developed in the yards?
Through the mayor, I would say that, those are, to do any sort of development, you require funds. And so, the way we're projecting out our cash flows, if you have money that you wish to invest into land development, it can have impacts, certainly, in terms of the timing of development. So that's probably the best answer I can give.
Okay. In other jurisdictions, such as Vancouver, developers seeking public subsidy actually have to present a detailed third-party audit pro forma to validate hardship claims. Do we have anything like that here in Regina?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. Not that I'm aware, but I'll pass to Ms. Willoughby.
Go ahead.
Thank you. There's no the legal or legislated requirement for that type of mandated proposal to be presented in Saskatchewan, at least.
Okay. And is there any policy being developed around this process of giving out to big box stores?
Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you, and through the chair. Yeah, I would say we don't expect this to be a normal course of business. This is part of running the land development business and making sure that we as a city are competitive and attracting the right businesses here. There's no strict playbook when it comes to this. A lot of these things are going to be unique, and we will approach them as unique and bring them back to council with all the details required to make a decision.
I think the city manager has a comment as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. And just one other reminder to council that you do have Economic Development Regina that is going out there by their own words. I think it's, what is it, hunting and fishing or gathering or whatever they do in terms of attraction. And they will do a lot of these discussions, investigations, and negotiations and work. And then they will come to us because they are a municipal corporation. So at that time, we may be envisioning having to have a discussion like this. But again, as Mr. Anderson says, we don't anticipate this to be an ongoing process. This is a unique one. But again, remember that EDR is our economic development arm that is out there trying to promote business and investment.
To the chair, is this unique if the next project can just say they would like to go to the GTH?
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Just through the chair, obviously if the GTH continues to want to compete with the city for retail and commercial businesses, we will keep looking at those proposals if brought forward by our commercial partners in the city and evaluate them as they come in. I wouldn't expect that to be the case though.
Okay. Well, thank you for making the best of a difficult situation. I'm just gonna say some stuff now. Costco is coming. The houses and construction are coming, and we can be very thankful and excited that there will be a second location of Costco. Where it's gonna be, we don't necessarily know, but the stakes here are not only fiscal, but it's also precedent setting for Regina's approach to economic development and land use integrity. If Costco receives this level of subsidy, how can the city credibly refuse similar requests from other multinational retailers? I've already gotten a request for Tower Crossing from my ward. This incentive appears to function more as a workaround than a principled economic development policy. The objective, I understand, to keep property taxes within city limits, and it's understandable, but the mechanism being used may actually undermine future revenue, reward the one party, the landowner versus the retailer, and open a precedent that can become really increasingly difficult to manage. The $7 million can be used to develop other areas of the city from that fund. We've heard of the yards already, and that would affect our ability to help other projects, like maybe incentivize a grocery store downtown, which is much needed. And it's just coming. So if the city of Regina feels like they need to subsidize development for economic development, they really need a policy to do so. That is fair to all developers, developments before anything like this goes through. It has to align to our community initiatives, to what we care about as a community, and it just can't come from the side. It's really unfair and it sets a precedent and it takes away from our other priorities. Once we intervene in the free market with incentive pricing, we really open ourselves up on asking the question why and where and who. Who do we want to give this money to? We are inserting ourselves where we don't belong in the free market, which is making the community ask questions. Who gets this money and why? It's because we are inserting ourselves into the land developer through this free market, through this incentive. So what are we doing for locally owned Canadian Saskatchewan businesses that contribute to the community with playgrounds and community efforts? What about our incentives we want to do, like the yards? What about all of that stuff? Meanwhile, Costco is coming. Why are we doing this without a policy? And what about our downtown? And what about all these other issues? And for this reason, I love Costco. I'm glad that they're coming. But this policy, I cannot support. And so I might be alone here, but I think this isn't being done correctly.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Mancinelli, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, the Chair. I guess I want to recognize, first of all, that there's a thank you in order. I'd like to thank Costco for appreciating our community and seeing the value in it to make this investment and to look towards it for investment. I think with everything going on in the world right now and the last couple of years, it's kind of refreshing to see an investment coming our way. And I think that's the real good news story here that we haven't really said too much today. So that's first on my list. I think next one up is I want to thank the province. I think to have an asset like the GTH on our doorstep with the proximity where we are in North America was extremely wise. I think it was a monumental generational investment. I think the billions spent, considering the commodities we move through and the distribution and the center of distribution we sit at, was very, very forward-looking. And I think that I really want to say thank you for that investment in our area and our region. It hasn't gone unnoticed. Next up is the preservation of that investment. I know people have mentioned logistics. I'd like to point out that with the development of that, the bypass wasn't developed for consumer access to the grounds, and that was for a reason, because this is a logistical transport hub. It was designed with that intent. And as a resident of Saskatchewan and a person in charge of a portion of a decision for the city of Regina, a big part of my decision to support this today is to preserve the multi-billions of dollars spent on the bypass and the logistical hub on the edge of our city for future generations. I think that this was a very short-sighted move, and I believe it was an undercut. Maybe for pennies on the dollar, looking at a balance sheet from 2025 instead of what can be achieved over the next 4 decades of use. And I think it's really important for city planning, we preserve what's been explained in this meeting today for the incremental investment on property tax and the reason the payback comes through that was so well explained by administration, but also for the investment that's been put into our part of the province. I believe this would be a monumental misstep. Like I said, I don't have to be a designer. I just have to look how access was given to this part of the land in our area. And I know this was a mistake to put a Costco on that side. Costco's got a business model. They'll draw wherever they go. But to mix in 2 million consumer visits with that type of logistic movement, well, I don't think that's the type of planning that people expect. And I don't think that's the use of resources people in our province expect when they have money spent and us having to spend out of a land development reserve to preserve those investments. So I will be voting in favor of this. I think I've explained my position well. And I hope that there's a monitor and maybe some concessions and some better planning for this region and that effect for the future, because we need to be successful, and I think we're all committed to being successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Zakidniak. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, as the counselor for Westera, I just would like to first of all say that I support this proposal. And I just also would like to speak for a moment to what's happened leading up to this point. Costco already had a purchase agreement in Westera without any financial incentives. This was approved through council. And then once the GTH got involved, that purchase agreement was canceled. So the regular process was followed. There was an agreement in place that was widely supported by Westera residents. 566 residents in Westera, the whole community, was mailed an advisement of the original proposal, were in support. 19 opposed, and 35 supported with changes. That level of support within a community for development is unprecedented. And so we know that Westera wants this. We know that we had a deal in place, and we've heard about the transformational impact that this would have for Westera. We've heard about the houses that will come if like we've heard from one of those developers today about what they've planned to do in Westera, the 300 homes, if this is contingent on Costco going within Westera. The builders of these homes are not going to make a commitment to the next phase of development in Westera unless Costco and additional retail is confirmed. If they won't commit to the pre-sales, on the next phase, there is no financing for the next phase of development. So it matters to Westera, it matters to our tax base, it matters to the whole city if Costco goes to the GTH. I want administration to repeat the part about the fees, that if Costco goes to the GTH outside of city limits, we were told that there would be no payment into, and I just want to check, is it the servicing agreement fees that we would not get paid that would help if we needed to put in additional infrastructure such as widening Dewdney to support the increased traffic. So I just wanted to check if it was indeed servicing agreement fees that are at risk if Costco is not within the city of Regina.
Ms. Brad?
Thank you, through the chair. So certainly the development of Costco within Westera, there would be servicing agreement fees. Westera developer pays servicing agreement fees for their greenfield development. And those greenfield or development fees contribute to projects that are required for city infrastructure, required for growth. So any growth related to the Costco, so growth in traffic, for example, the Costco would not be contributing to any of that infrastructure cost to support that increase in traffic due to the growth.
Right. So if Costco is located out of the city, we won't be getting those servicing agreement fees for any infrastructure related to growth.
That is triggered by the Costco, correct?
Yes, thank you. So it does matter. It matters in terms of not getting the servicing agreement of fees. It matters for not getting the property taxes, which Mr. Jedlick already went over some of the impacts of that. Appendix B talks about the Aurora Costco and the property taxes associated with the Costco and adjacent development in Aurora. I calculated those, and it's almost $1.5 million a year. All of that goes away if Costco locates to the GTH. We know that the community of Westera needs it. We know that the community of Westera has been struggling, and there's not any other anchor tenants, and I can confirm this, who've come looking to locate in Westera. This is an opportunity for Westera. This is an opportunity for our entire city for the tax benefits. I'm not happy about this either. As I mentioned, there was a purchase agreement in place without any of these financial incentives. And so And just to be clear, it's not Costco who wants the incentive. It's us, the city of Regina, that wants to give this incentive so that Costco doesn't go to the GTH. That was a recommendation from administration due to the economic benefits and all the benefits of having this retailer in our city. So the frustration, though, with having to give out an incentive is fair. Fortunately, we have a 7-year payback and we will have indefinite tax revenue moving forward. This money will come back to us, and we won't just replenish the reserves, we will have
Counselor.
the property taxes indefinitely from this. But the frustration about these costs needs to be directed to the province and the GTH who have put us in this position. And if there's a concern about precedent, that needs to be addressed with the GTH, not turning down a massive revenue opportunity just to make a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sickley's, go ahead.
Thank you. I've changed my mind. I have no comment.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, I'll go to Counselor Fro to close debate.
I heard the developer from, the developer of Westera say today that they're prepared to compete head up, on the free market without a subsidy. But of course, this wasn't a free market competition. We've heard many times that we have highly subsidized government land being offered as a discount. So this is a unique situation, and one I hope is not repeated in the future. And while I, like others, are frustrated maybe how this came to be, like Councillor Mazzanelli, I think it's worth reminding ourselves and celebrating the fact that we'll see hundreds of millions of dollars of investment in our community, tens of millions in property taxes over the life of this overall development. Let's not lose sight of the important high-value intention, purpose, and opportunity of GTH. I think we should say on the record that there should be no retail there ever. Instead, let's continue to see high-value economic development opportunities at the GTH. GTH is doing a lot of really good things. So we're not going to walk away from $500 million in investment in our community, and so I'll be voting yes. That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor. And with that, I will ask the clerk to start the vote, please.
It's Councillor Zakidniak. I'm not signed into eBoardroom. Can I vote verbally?
Yeah, you can vote verbally. Go ahead.
In favor.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, the motion passes 9-1, with the following members voting in favor as follows. Councillors Mancinelli, Fro, Radins, Burton, Bezo, Rasevich, Siklis, Flores, and Mayor Bashinsky. And the councillor voting against is Councillor Turnbull.
Thank you. We are at 4.
And myself as well, voting in favor.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, yes, that's correct. My apologies because it wasn't on the screen. Just for the record, Councillor Zakidniak voted in favor.
Thank you. With that, it's 4:30. We're going to take our mandatory 50-minute break. We will be back at 4:45. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started. If everybody can take their seats, we'll keep moving. Okay, I'll call the meeting back to order. So we're now going to consider item CR 25-55 2024 annual submittal of Regina Exhibition Associated Limited. That was the one that was pulled off of the consent agenda for a reminder for folks. So I will ask Councillor Fro if you could introduce the report.
Thank you very much. Through the chair, the recommendation is that City Council authorize the Chief Financial Officer and Deputy City Manager as a City of Regina proxy to exercise the City of Regina's voting rights at the upcoming Regina Exhibition Association Limited Annual General Meeting as follows: to A, approve the audited financial statements for the 2024 operating year found in Appendix A, the Regina Exhibition Association Limited Financial Statements, December 31st, 2024. B, approve the 2024 annual report found in Appendix B, Regina Exhibition Association Limited 2024 annual report. And C, approve MNP LLP as external auditor for REAL for 2025 and 2026. So we couldn't use the acronym in A and B there. That would have been easier.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Can I have someone move the report? Councillor Mancinelli, and a seconder. Councillor Turnbull, thank you. Councillor Mancinelli, I'll let you speak to the report. Go ahead.
Thank you. Being that this was part of the consent agenda, I didn't mean to hold up today's meeting. I just didn't want to potentially make a mistake of transparency. Just thinking back through the 2024 year and the public face of REAL, I wanted to ensure that people knew that this budget came through, that it was in good working order. There were some contentious matters that were part of this budget, like the $8 million payback for SUS. It showed up properly in here. The plans coming forward looked like REAL's back in more of a solvent position going forward and back to getting on its feet slowly and properly. So I just wanted to speak about it for a second, make sure everyone knew that it was coming through, make sure there was no question of transparency, and I'm done.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor. And yeah, I appreciate that. I'll check and see if there's any further questions to your comment there. Seeing none, was there any final thoughts you had on that one? Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, for the record, Councillor Zakidniak has left the meeting. All members present vote in favor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now consider remaining bylaws. So first, I will ask Deputy Mayor Burton to do first reading of bylaw number 2025-35, the Regina Traffic Amendment Bylaw.
I move, seconded by Councillor Turnbull, that bylaw number 2025-35 be introduced and read a first time.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, first reading of the bylaw is carried unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton, can you please do second reading of the bylaw?
I move, seconded by Councillor Flores, that bylaw number 2025-35 be read a second time.
Thank you. Does any member have any questions on this one? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, second reading of the bylaw carries unanimously with all 10 members present voting in favor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Burton, can you please do consent for third reading of the bylaw?
I move, seconded by Councilor Radons. The council hereby consent to bylaw number 2025-35 going to third reading at this meeting.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, consent for third reading is carried unanimously as required by law.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Burton, can you please do final reading of the bylaw?
I move, seconded by Councilor Mancinelli, that bylaw number 2025-35 be ready third time.
Thank you. I'll ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, third reading of the bylaw is carried unanimously with all 10 members present voting in favor.
Thank you. So next, I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Burton to do the first reading of the bylaw number 2025-37, the taxi amendment bylaw. I just want to be clear, so we will do the first reading and we will do the vote of the first reading, and then we have two delegations to speak after the vote of the first reading. Okay, so Councillor Burton, I'll get you to do first reading, please.
I move, seconded by Councillor Bezo, that bylaw number 2025-37 be introduced and ready first time.
Thank you. I will ask the clerk to start the vote on first reading.
Through you, Mayor, first reading of the bylaw is carried unanimously with all 10 members present voting in favor.
Thank you. So now I would like to call upon Delegation DE 25-114, Sandra Archibald. Okay, and once you are settled, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of councils may have for you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Well, the good news is we're not looking for $7 million incentive, so this should go a lot quicker. My name is, thank you, Mayor Brzezinski and members of council. My name is Sandy Archibald. Our family has operated taxi brokerage companies in Regina for decades and a fleet of accessible vehicles for many years prior to COVID. We're asking council to remove just one point in the bylaw before you, point 14. We're requesting no changes to subsection 24.1 bracket 1 in the current taxi bylaw, which states, among other things, if no accessible taxi cab affiliated with that broker is available, then the broker shall be responsible to contact another broker to have an accessible taxi cab dispatched. This provision that's in the bylaw now provides the mechanisms for service to customers and is working. Under the proposed bylaw changes, brokers are expected to have accessible service available 24/7, and any failure to provide that service would be a contravention of the bylaw and subject to a $5,000 fine. Brokers don't own or operate accessible vehicles. Broker corporations are explicitly prohibited from entering lotteries or being added to the wait list to acquire accessible licenses. In comparison, transit, paratransit, and private operators are not required to offer 24-hour service and are therefore not subject to the $5,000 fine. And the elephant in the room is vehicles for hire, such as Uber, that are not required to provide any accessible service, and Uber does not provide accessible service to Regina citizens and travelers. So we're wondering why the responsibility for 24/7 accessibility service falls solely on the shoulders of the taxi industry. The advent of Uber had a dramatic effect on the industry and skimmed untold thousands of, perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars of the cream off the top of the taxi riding public, reduced SGI driver requirements, skirted regulations including no cameras in vehicles, no driver ID badges, etc. But Uber pays the city 20 cents per trip fee plus 7 cents accessibility per trip fee. The accessibility per trip fee is to be used for, quote, transportation initiatives intended to assist persons with a physical disability in accessing and using municipal public transit services or taxi services, as stipulated under the vehicle for hire regulations. These fees have been collected since May of 2019 to date. How much money has the city collected? Where's the money gone? How much it has been spent? And on what? And how much is left? A complete accounting for this money has never been disclosed to the public. A recent access to information request was returned totally redacted. The city can increase those fees to Uber without any change to any bylaw. We estimate there's enough fees that have been collected so that the city could purchase an accessible van that paratransit could operate from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily to provide service to the accessible community if the city deems this service should be provided. The amendments to the bylaw stipulate each taxi broker must have at least one accessible taxi in service at all times. That means 6 accessible vehicles available for a very, very, very few trips in the overnight hours. Accessible vehicles are much more expensive to procure and maintain. A requirement to be in service in the overnight hours puts added wear and tear on the vehicle and may lead to the operator considering whether he wants to be in that business or not. If the city believes this service is necessary but doesn't have the budget to provide it, where's the logic that a taxi brokerage, a much smaller entity, and the accessible taxi operator have the budget to provide this service? Equally troubling is that accessible taxi licenses are issued to individual operators, not brokers. Therefore, the city of the first part is compelling the broker of the second part to contract with an operator, the third part, to provide the service requirement layered onto the broker if this 24-hour provision is put into the bylaw. In the event the broker cannot make those arrangements or the operator fails to operate 24/7, the broker is been arbitrarily deemed to be the entity breaking the bylaw and facing the monetary penalty. The administration's report and bylaw does not contemplate the mechanics, expenses, and overall financial burden that will be added to the accessible operators and brokers if point 14 in the report is legislated into bylaw. We respectfully request Council to remove that point and affirm the existing subsection 24.11 in the current taxi bylaw that it's maintained. Thank you very much for your consideration of this.
Thank you very much, Ms. Archibald. I'll look to see questions. I see Councillor Rasevich. Go ahead.
Through the chair, I guess, just kind of wondering, are there any stats on how many rides are needed or how many rides have been taken for accessible at nighttime over a month or 3 months, 4 months? Is there any data?
Okay. Through the chair, well, I think at a previous meeting, one of the brokers who was recently just getting back into the accessible business said that he had 2 calls over a 3-month period and one of those calls canceled. So by that, there's 1 call over 3 months. Further than that, I don't think there are any statistics to refer to, but it's very minimal.
Okay, I guess, and then another question would be, since the city doesn't provide that service, just like you said, would the taxi companies, would you be open to if somebody kind of pre-booked instead of having the vehicle driving around all night, not picking anybody up, but if somebody wanted to pre-book a pickup, would that be something that you would be open to?
To the chair, yes, absolutely. Because if you have a customer that's going to an event at the casino or wherever and it ends late night and they want to ride home, certainly, because the driver would likely have taken them there and would make arrangements for that customer to make sure that they get home safely. So certainly.
Okay. No, thank you. Just sounds like you're willing to compromise as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hi. Thank you. And also, that was a good comment about pre-booking. Are you aware, with the way human rights work, when we operate transit, we have to operate paratransit and vice versa? Like, if we have regular buses, we also need to have paratransit at the same hours and vice versa. Like, so, like.
Through the chair, am I aware that that's a provision that the city has?
Well, that's the way it goes with human rights jurisdiction, that like when we operate paratransit, we also have to have regular transit and vice versa. That's a human rights issue.
I wasn't aware of that, but if the city wanted to get into if you follow what I was suggesting there, taking the money that Uber pays on this accessibility fee, buying a small vehicle, that may be able to fulfill that requirement to provide both accessible and non-accessible service with that same vehicle in those overnight hours.
Yeah. So with the human rights standards for Canada, so you've got the Human Charters of Rights in 1982, Accessible Saskatchewan Act 2023, Accessible Canada Act 2019, all those things, just so that you're aware, like when you have a
Councillor
hotel.
Turnbull, do you have a question?
Sure. Are you aware that when there's like a hotel, there's like an accessible room and there's other rooms? So with the accessibility, are you aware that there always has to be the same equal service for accessible or not accessible for national law?
I don't know the city's requirements for human rights. No, I don't. I know what we have to deal with and the D409 standards that we have to meet. And if the city, with respect, if the city can't provide this service, why should it be put onto the shoulders of these taxi operators without any compensation? If the city were to take a look at taking this money from Uber and making a significant investment, not just $4 a trip, to those operators, that might be one solution. Since the city allocates these licenses to the individual operators, put a condition on those to those individual operators that thou shalt operate 24/7, whether there's demand there or not. The city can put that condition on those licenses, I would expect.
But so are you aware that with or without city, if that service is not provided, you could face a human rights complaint, whether the city was involved or not, if you weren't able to provide that service?
Could someone make a human rights complaint?
Yes, they could.
A person can make a complaint about anything.
Yes.
You know, whether it's, tripping and falling, going out of City Hall because whatever. Maybe that's not human rights. I guess that's slip and fall. Sorry.
So if I'm hearing you right, what the issue is more support for the taxi cabs to be able to meet those bylaw requirements, is to find some sort of compromise to help meet those requirements for the 24-hour accessibility. Is that correct?
Well, I don't think the operators should be shouldered with that burden to provide the 24/7. If the city is of a mind to do that, then perhaps they should be looking at legislating private operators to do the same, and Ubers to do the same, because Uber could contract with somebody to provide that service. If you can't run paratransit and the buses overnight, I expect there might be some compromise you could come up with, but it doesn't seem right to put it on the burden onto those 6 or 8 guys, those individuals. It just doesn't seem right. It doesn't sit right with me.
But are you aware that it is? So accessibility, like it could go to Uber.
I want to make sure we're not debating, so I would say let's stick to questions for the delegate.
All right, so is there anything, you mentioned pre-booking and supporting bylaw, what else measures could we help support you to meet it? If we couldn't eliminate it, what could we do to help support you?
Well, I still think the paratransit renting a vehicle is an option. Now, I don't know whether the city can explore to get a workaround on that or not, because that would make the most sense to me. In terms of support, I think you'd have to maybe talk to the individual operators. I mean, put the onus on them versus the brokers, because the brokers can't have those licenses. The brokers can't. They've got a contract with a third party to almost force them to do that work, which doesn't make sense, because those third parties are actually customers of the brokers. So there's not a really easy solution on this. So that's where we're looking to maintain what the bylaw point, the bylaw that's the wording in the bylaw now, because it's working. If someone needs service, if we can't provide it, another broker can, and make arrangements that way. And then if people are pre-booking, we can handle that, because we know that the customer wanted to go somewhere, we took them there, we'll get them home. That's the system. What's in the bylaw now is working, and we're looking for that to be maintained.
Okay, I agree with you that this isn't easy, and I will ask administration some more questions. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Thank you, through the chair. You mentioned, just over 3 months, a couple calls, one was canceled. Is there any hours where you see very limited calls, 1 till 5 in the morning, 2 till 6 as you do something? Is there any particular hour where you could say that there's extremely limited demand for accessible?
Probably the next delegation might be able to speak to that a little bit more, but definitely those overnight hours from like midnight to 6 a.m. Unless there's something, and guys will work when there's a big event going on in the city, like it's a big concert or something, then people are out there, the operators are out there working, but typically midnight to 6 a.m.
Okay. Thank you. Do taxi companies coordinate in other areas where you might say, we will provide this service this week and you can provide it the next week, or any type of thing like that?
Well, that's what's working now. It's not sort of week on, week off, but we work within the brokerages. If one brokerage can't supply the accessible service at a certain time, they call another one to see if they can to accommodate the customer. So that's what's in the bylaw now. That's what's working, and we speak to each brokerage to determine if someone can get that service.
In my industry, IT, I worked many years where I was an on-call person and I had to get into the office pretty quick. I worked in the days when you couldn't just connect in, and I had to get up, get something on, and ride my horse downtown and fix the problem. No, maybe not ride the horse, but what would be, if you had some on-call people, what would be a reasonable maximum dispatch time for a taxi to get there if it did not say active on duty but said available?
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, there are, as Sarah has talked about, Councillor Turnbull has talked about, there are sometimes needs and sometimes something odd will come up, and as you mentioned, a couple of them have occurred. So if you had something happen and 3 in the morning and somebody does need somebody and you didn't have a taxi on, it was accessible, how long would it take to turn that around?
Well, I guess it would be, the maximum would be from one end of the city to the other end of the city. So what would that be, 20 minutes perhaps? Okay. And there's not a lot of traffic, so you're not going to get bogged down in traffic. So that's probably, if the fellow has to, jump out of bed, get dressed, so yeah. I suppose 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, no other questions?
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, I'll thank you for your presentation, and you can head back to the gallery.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to call upon Delegation D 25-115, Glenn Sally. Glenn, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Glenn, can you hear me? Oh, I think you're on mute. Hit *6 on your phone.
Hello?
Yeah, there we go. Can you hear us here?
Hello, yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So Glenn, I'll get you to introduce yourself for the record, the organization you're representing, if any, which city or town you reside in. You'll have 5 minutes to address City Council, after which you will have the opportunity to respond to any questions that members of Council may have for you. Go ahead once you're ready.
To your worship and City Councilors, my name is Glenn Solly, owner of Capital Cabs in Regina. I would like to ask the city to amend or delete the following part of the bylaw. All brokerage to have a minimum of 1 accessible taxi cab in service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for each brokerage. This is extremely hard for us to get the operators of all companies to run 24 hours, 7 days a week. The taxi operators are independent operators and they set their own hours. Some of the smaller taxi companies don't even have taxis running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is extremely costly to do this, and as you are aware with the transit system, we find the 24/7 to be unreasonable. There is no requirements for 24/7 services for regular taxis, for any taxi cabs in the city, we're not required to run 24/7. Shuttles, accessible shuttles, rideshare companies, limo companies, bus companies, tow trucks, car washes, gas stations, auto repair shops, and vet clinics, and I could go on and on. None of them are forced to operate 24/7. They are all set their own hours. If there are calls for accessible taxi trips, we have accessible taxis on call. Or if we're unable to arrange with, we make arrangements with other companies to assist us. I ask you to amend or delete all brokerages to have the minimum of one accessible taxi cab in service 24/7 for each brokerage. Safety for our customers is important to the industry, and we have no issues with training. And I do understand the city's concerned about the proper training and safety for our customers. We do support this, but we have no other issues with the bylaw other than the 24/7. We do not support, we do support driver training for accessible drivers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your presentation, Glenn. I'll look to my colleagues for questions. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hello, thanks for presenting. You said something I found interesting about not all taxi cab drivers even running 24/7. Would it be a better solution to possibly be in parity so that accessible taxi cabs are running when regular taxi cabs are running? Would that be a better solution than 24/7?
I think the way we're running the accessible taxis right now is probably the best way. I understand this. I operated for almost 2 years without any, I lost my accessible. I operated 2 years without any accessible taxis. Do you realize I managed to provide customers with accessible taxis throughout that time period because I phoned other cab companies to arrange them the ride. So it like Sandy Archibald said, that we made arrangements with other cab companies, and the peak times for accessible taxis is in the daytime. Normally, it's between the hours of 7 and 7. That 12-hour is the peak time, is where we need most of the accessible taxis working. The off hours, I mean, to say that we're not going to have accessible taxis working, yeah, you could have some days you might have, but to say that we have to have 24/7 service, I can't guarantee that. There's no way we can guarantee that, but we can arrange for accessible taxis at any time of the day. Like if you require one at 3 o'clock in the morning and you phone us ahead, certainly we'll arrange to make sure that you have the trip. But to make it 7 accessible taxis running 24/7 is being really unreasonable and forcing you. Otherwise, I get charged $5,000. That's being really unreasonable. And to make it the responsibility of the taxi industry only, I just went into the thing. Nobody has to run 24/7. Nobody sets a law that everybody has to run 24/7, a business. That's not acceptable.
Okay, thank you for your feedback, and I have some questions I'll ask him in later.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Burton. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned about the fact that you're a brokerage and that each taxi is an independent operator. Does your contract with your independent operators allow you to force somebody to be on duty in order to ensure that you have availability of accessible taxis, or what kind of considerations do you have with that type of business model?
Yeah, we don't. They're all independent operators. They work their own hours. I'll tell you what, it's literally, I asked them to come out and help me. I asked them to come out and help me. They could say no to me, but I have a cooperation with the ones that I have working with me now, and each one has put in commitment that they're on call. So what we have is accessible taxis on call. Everybody shares, and I think all companies do this. We share that if we have if we need in the need of accessible taxi, I always have somebody on call for that. But they're not going to be working; they're just going to be on call. But in the bylaw, it states that we have to be working, and that is extremely hard to do.
Thank you. Through the chair, could you describe some of your on-call processes, and how long does it take to dispatch to turn around a call if it was middle of the night and you had an unexpected one?
So first of all, when I have one on call, like you had said, we'd phone the individual. He would go, and it depends on the location. So if the driver is on the north end of the city and has to drive to the south end of the city, you could be 15, 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes, but it depends on the location where he is. Now, if that on-call driver doesn't answer it, then it's my job to go and turn around, and I phone the other brokerages, and I keep phoning. I do this myself at 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'll phone, and then I'll make sure that customer gets a accessible taxi. And I haven't had any issues. Since I've got the accessibles in January, I haven't had any real issues of getting accessible taxis for the customers.
Thank you. And then just the same question I asked previously, the other operator. Do you have hours where you have 0 or no calls for accessible service? So you'd say at midnight to 6, 1 till 5? Is there any particular time where you might say?
I'd say it's probably around 10 till 6 is where there's the ridership will be extremely low. And I mean extremely low.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burton. Seeing no further questions, thank you, Glenn, for your presentation today. You can log off. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll get Councillor Burton to do second reading, and then after second reading is complete, it'll be open for questions. So Councillor Burton, can I get you to please do second reading of the bylaw?
Thank you. I move, seconded by Councillor Rasevich, that bylaw number 2025-37 be read a second time.
Thank you. And I see Councillor Rasevich has questions. Go ahead.
I guess just listening to the delegates, and I know we dealt with this last time, and I think I voted against it last time. I'd like to make a motion that if we as a city can't be 24/7, why are we making taxi service to be 24/7? It sounds like they'd be open to accept calls to pre-book, and especially over the overnight hours to pre-book and accommodate and pick up the individuals that need help. So I would like to make a motion to take number 14 out of the bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Rasevich. Is there a seconder for the motion to take point 14, Councillor Sickleys? Okay, so Councillor Rasevich, you've got 3 minutes to speak to your amendment that you've put forward, and then I'll open it up to others for questions, and then I'll go back to you to close debate. So go ahead.
Sure. I don't think I'll need 3 minutes. But just like the delegates are saying, that the activity that's happening late at night is minimal, and they're open to accommodate and pre-book. So I think that seems to me to be pretty sufficient. And us as a city, if we can't do what we're asking the private sector to do, then I don't think we should be forcing businesses to do something that we can't do. So, I mean, that's all I have to say on that. And I mean, hopefully we can get this motion passed and move on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Rasevich. Councillor Burton, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair to the administration. Are there any legal implications to removing that Article 14 from the bylaw?
Thank you, through the mayor. So removing 14 from the amending bylaw will mean that the existing provision that's in the bylaw will stay as is, and it's not illegal the way it is, so it's fine.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, I guess to the administration, maybe I don't know if they have the answer for this. Is there, you know, when you don't have a service immediately available, some people may say there's some latent demand. I'm just wondering if there's any numbers, any insight that perhaps if there's no service there, that people aren't calling because they don't feel they can get that service, and so that if the was available 24/7, then they might call.
Mr. Doney, go ahead.
Through the chair, I'll just provide a bit of information and ask Mr. Kleem to give some more details. So obviously the policy decision was made by council at previous city council, and this is the bylaw to finalize items. I can comment that our paratransit denial rate is much too high right now, and so we're in that 4 to 5% with an objective down to lower than 1%. But I'll ask Mr. Kleem to give a bit more detail of the question that was asked.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So to the question of latent demand, certainly from our engagement with the accessible community, which is the reason why these bylaw changes are in front of you, we have heard that the accessible community has stopped relying on accessible service. Not only after hours, that's a small sliver of what we're hearing from the accessible service. And this particular bylaw change or amendment would increase the accessible service all day, because it would require all brokers to have an accessible taxiing service. So certainly I think there is latent demand in the community, and people just not using or finding other ways, or potentially not going to events, things like that. That is happening right now in our community.
Okay. My comment, and I'm just working my way through to if I want to try and do a friendly amendment, because you know, I think that we're hearing that during normal hours, and I'll say 6 till midnight, I'll just push that there, that yes, there is demand, perhaps latent demand here that we might see in the evening, but everything I've heard here is in discussing with the operator or the brokerages is that in particular that midnight to 6 a.m. period is particularly problematic. And then there's also the idea that, you know, I do want to ensure that we want to provide services to people with those needs, that we do need to do that. So I have to make my amendment now if I'm going to try and do that. That's.
I'll let the clerk speak to that.
Through you, Mayor, it would depend on what amendment you're wanting to make, because right now we have an amendment on the floor. So if you're wanting to make an amendment to the amendment, but if it's a different amendment, then we would need to vote on this first.
How about if I just wait, because I can always, well, I can't really introduce a separate amendment.
Yeah, because we'll go back to the discussing the main bylaw.
You bet. Okay, yeah. Then, okay, I think I will hear from my other colleagues here and the discussion with that first.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fro, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, it's certainly reasonable to expect that we as a community can find a way to provide equitable and accessible, you know, paratransit and sort of accessible communication options. And I guess the question is how we get there, right? And so I guess I have a couple questions to that respect. The Chair to Administration, am I correct that we don't mandate that taxis, I rephrase that, do we mandate that taxis provide service 24 hours a day? Like, is it an expectation, our current bylaw, that, you know, if I want a taxi at 3 in the morning, that someone has to be waiting to pick me up?
Mr. Queen?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that's not a requirement in our current bylaw. You could potentially make the characterization that with this amendment that would be a requirement. I think you know, to go back in terms of fines levied against a broker, that hasn't been done in recent memory with you know, with the people that are in the chairs that we have now. So we're not very heavy-handed with our enforcement when it comes to that. We are very amenable to working with the brokers, and the bylaw amendments that are before you today have gone through extensive engagement with the taxi community, including the brokers and the drivers, as well as the license holders.
Thank you. So if I understand that correctly, we don't force taxi brokers or through them drivers to be available 24/7, if I got that correct. I also heard today a question, you know, why is it that the city is not providing this? I assume there's a cost and service implications here, but we're asking others to do that on our behalf, if I'm hearing that accurately. But just for confirmation from administration's perspective, why is it that we would ask the private sector, or in fact mandate them to do something that we're not willing to do ourselves? And I'm sure we have good reasons for that, but I'd like to hear them.
Mr. Doney, go ahead.
Through the chair. So with respect to paratransit in particular, if we wanted to provide that service from midnight to 5 a.m., we're looking at around $300,000 annually for that. And of course, what's before you right now solves even a larger problem, which is making sure that there's accessible taxi during the peak times, which is a challenge that we have right now, and paratransit does not have capacity right now to meet those peak demands.
Thank you, Mr. Doney. So I understand from your comment that we're rightfully trying to bring down our denial rate from 45% to ideally less than 1%, if I heard you correctly. So that's commendable. We should aspire to do that. I guess the question is, based on the outcome we're trying to achieve, which I suspect we're all in agreement, what other options has administration contemplated to allow us to get there that might not be as perhaps heavy-handed in terms of the expectation, the cost that we're asking private businesses to incur, right? So we can agree upon the outcome that we want to provide equitable and accessible transportation options in our community. Were other options considered during your stakeholder engagement or perhaps in best practice research to sort of guide how we might get there in a collaborative way that's agreeable for all?
Through the chair, I can start with the paratransit plan, and then I'll ask Mr. Kleem to provide any details he can on taxi. So you'll recall during the budget presentation that we had a 2 or 3 step plan for paratransit, and the one that was most that will be activated as soon as possible is the software program. And so council approved software for paratransit, and we're just starting that procurement process now to ensure that we have the ability to increase the number of services that we can provide to paratransit customers. So that's one option that is in there. And then I'll ask Mr. Kleem just to provide a bit more details about the overall taxi industry and options there.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the I mean, the taxi regulatory environment that we have now is very complicated, and it's historic. Like, if we were to design a taxi regulatory system now, we probably wouldn't do it in the same way. So the city is involved in this business from a regulatory standpoint, not necessarily from an interest in actually providing this service. I would characterize our current taxi bylaw as all brokers are required to have accessible service, accessible taxi in service at all times. There is a loophole within that bylaw which allows them to rely on another brokerage. And I mean, I've heard from taxi brokers saying that they haven't had accessible taxis in service for as long as years sometimes. So when we went through these changes in particular, the goal was to make sure that we have accessible service, in place at all times, as our role as the regulator, right? So we're not trying to provide the service; we are trying to regulate a service that is delivered. And something to note about accessible taxis is they're not a one-trick pony. It's not as if this stays vacant or stays idle unless there's somebody that needs to move with a wheelchair. Anybody can take an accessible taxi. So any trip, say if you have one car that's on the road, between that midnight to 6, that short time, if it's an accessible taxi, it can take both a wheelchair user as well as a able-bodied passenger. So the driver can still be made whole in terms of the revenue that they're making through that night.
Thank you very much for that answer. I guess the driver can be made whole, if I understand correctly, so long as there's demand for that services, which may or may not be there at sort of 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning. From administration's perspective, through the chair, Councillor Burton talked about a midnight threshold. Trying to find a reasonable compromise. And of course, we can revisit these bylaws periodically as we work with the community and with industry to assess the data and look at best practices. And so, might we consider a stage gate approach that doesn't mandate a service we're not willing or able to fund ourselves, but that starts moving the needle towards addressing our peak time interests and addressing some of the things here, because I am reticent to mandate someone to incur costs at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I do want to provide equitable and accessible service. So what would your reaction, given that you've done a lot of work in this file, be if we stage gated, if we started with, say, midnight?
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So currently taxis operate 24/7. That's generally true for our brokers. There's certainly some smaller brokers, which we haven't heard any feedback about this particular provision, that have a lower amount of vehicles on the road. I would say that the recommendation from administration would be the same, that we would regulate accessible service by each broker, at all times that they're within service themselves, noting that and like I said, we are not very heavy-handed with our enforcement. If a particular brokerage has only one accessible taxi in service and that one goes down because it gets rear-ended on a ring road or something, certainly we are amenable to make sure that can be repaired and to not carry that heavy weight. And certainly as we move forward, if we are finding flaws or finding issues in terms of the implementation of this bylaw in place, then we would certainly come back to council for amendments to that bylaw.
So thank you very much. And again, I know I asked this question, but I guess my last statement would be, as I suspect we all agree on the outcome, what we're trying to accomplish here, but there's hundreds of other municipalities across Canada and many thousands across North America. I'd like to look at what other communities are doing to achieve this goal, and then assess our path forward. To me, it's clear we're making a regulatory decision. I'd be curious at looking what other options are available to us, and I haven't seen that data yet.
Thank you, Councillor Fro. Councillor Turnbull, go ahead.
Hello. So I have some questions. I guess I wanted to say statements or questions right now. Okay, both. So I guess I wanted to talk a little bit how these things are done for the human rights standard as a whole. So you've got the Human Rights Charter 1982, the Human Rights Standard, the Saskatchewan Act, Accessible Canada Act, and really all of these things are based upon parity. If you can do something as an able-bodied person, you have to be able to do it as a person with a disability. And something that is a really good demonstration is if you look at washrooms, you always have your big accessible washroom and then you have your individual stalls. And if you are building new washrooms, you always start with your accessible stall and then you add on single stalls. And that is your basic starting point when you look at building code and you go to 3.8 in the accessibility code or for any sort of construction or regulation. You always start with your accessible piece and then you build on your single other pieces so that everyone has access. And it sounds like that is exactly what this taxi plan is that anyone can use that large washroom and anyone can use that large taxi. And then you just add on the singleton ones afterwards. But the whole basis for those codes, and they are enforceable for getting the city, but through a Human Rights Act of Saskatchewan or Canada outside of us, you could still end up in those issues, is that it's parity. So if taxis have to be open 24/7, then accessible taxis shouldn't have to be open 24/7. They should match the same hours. So what I'm hearing here is that we need to make an amendment for more of that parity. And we've had that with our paratransit and our transit. So instead of the 24/7, maybe we have to amend it to be when there is taxis, there has to be that. And then also some sort of support to these businesses as they're changing models for their infrastructure. And I'm not sure how that would look. So what sort of support could we possibly offer to help get them there, I guess is my question.
I'll just go to the clerk first. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, just by hearing some of the conversation that's happening and some of the things that you're indicating, Councillor Turnbull, an option would be available to members is if somebody wanted to move a tabling motion and direct administration to provide additional information in a supplemental report.
Could we even, but then it would hold the whole bylaw up, correct? If we tabled it from passing?
Through you, Mayor, that is correct. The purpose of the potential to table it is if you're requiring that additional information to see if you'd still want to proceed with this bylaw, or indeed after you see the additional information that's brought forward, you may want to make other significant amendments to bring forward.
I don't think I'd want to table it because I want the bylaw to go ahead. So, so I guess if myself or Vernon wanted to make an amendment, we would do it after this.
Give me 1 second. Okay, I just want to make sure you get your question answered because you're asking a question, Councillor Turnbull. So, did you still want that answer right now, or I'll let you finish your thought?
Well, my thought is I want the taxi amendment bylaw to go through. I don't want to table it. I don't want to open up the whole thing at all. So I would rather put in an amendment here to even just relook at that one point than to table the whole bylaw and open it up.
Okay, I'll go to the clerk. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, in order to do that, it would be contrary to what is currently on the floor as an amendment because the Councillor Rasovich and Councillor Siklis have moved that be removed in its entirety. So an option would,
Section 14.
yeah, but they're saying to remove it entirely.
Not the entire taxi amendment bylaw.
No, they're asking to remove section 14 of this amending bylaw. So was it that you were wanting to make a change to section 14 of the bylaw or another?
No, just 14. It would just be 14 is the one we're discussing, making amendment to help.
Okay, so what I'm trying to explain is what you're wanting to do would be contrary. What you could do is ask Councillor Rasovich and Councillor Siklis if they would be interested in withdrawing their motion so that you could put a new motion on the floor with the amendments that you'd like to make to section 14.
I guess my question with the min, which has in the middle of us, is what what could we do to help support so that like I could possibly put it in the amendment? Like I don't know what my amendment would be yet. Okay. Yeah, so my question is what could we do to help support the taxi cabs here without limiting the services?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So I think it was last year. Yes, it was last year. There was a accessible taxi program that was brought before council, which it was more broad-reaching changes and included a array of incentives specifically for accessible drivers. So the goal was basically to incentivize people to be able to make a living doing this type of work. One of the main concerns we heard from drivers was it's extra time for an accessible fare, and to Councillor Turnbow's point, the fares are not different for accessible and a conventional fare. So there's also more deadhead time because an accessible taxi would have to potentially drive longer for a accessible fare than a conventional fare, which is the closest one within proximity. That was funded through a increase in the accessible trip fee for both Uber, and we actually recommended putting it to the to the taxi brokers as well. So a per trip fee for a taxi ride. So that was the funding source for those particular changes. That was voted down by council last year. So my commitment, through the discussion, the policy was to continue to review the accessible service, assuming these changes were made, and then potentially, if the accessible service does not improve, then to bring further changes, including a non-$0 option before council. This was within that original report from last year. This was the $0 option that was ultimately defeated in summer of last year.
I'm gonna run out of time, so I'll just say that I'll vote against this amendment and then put in a new amendment. Right? Okay, that's run out of time.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to table? Is that procedurally doable?
Can we just table section 14 only? We don't want to table the whole thing.
Okay, we're going to take a 10-minute recess. We'll be back at 5:54. Okay, we're going to get started again here. Folks could take their seats, please. Okay, I'm going to call the meeting back to order. And I'm going to go to Councillor Beazle. Go ahead.
Thank you very much to the chair. I would like to table this to the next council meeting. I need more time.
Okay, with that, tabling motion is no debate. I'll get a seconder for that, for tabling. Councillor Flores, thank you. So with that, there's no debate on tabling, so I will move to the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, the tabling motion carries with 8 members voting in favor.
Thank you. So with that, second reading will be carried out at the next meeting. Okay, with that, we will move on to. Yeah, go ahead.
When we pick up the meeting, is the amendment on the screen still going to be carried forward when the meeting resumes?
Through you, Mayor, no, because the tabling motion trumped the amending motion, we're back to the main debate on the second reading of the bylaw at the next meeting.
If felt necessary, it can still be amended though and everything. Perfect. Just wanted confirmation for clarity. Thank you.
Correct, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, so we will move on to the notice of motions. Sorry, notice of motion. Okay, so the following notice of motion will be considered by City Council at its May 21st, 2025 meeting. All questions and discussions respecting the item will be held until that meeting, and that is the one motion, MN 25-10, Smart Investments for Sustainable Regina. Okay, we'll now consider the notice of motion MN 25-9, reconsideration of item CM 25-3, 2025 proposed budget amendment number 19, reduce expenditures by 1.55 million. And I would like to move that the notice be waived. And with that, I would look for a seconder for that. Councillor Sickley's, thank you. And we will take a vote. If carried unanimous, we'll go to the next step to move the notice. So we'll take a vote on that. I'll ask the clerk to start the vote when ready.
Through you, Mayor, the motion to waive notice to consider the motion at this meeting has been carried unanimously.
Thank you very much. So with that, we'll now consider motion MN 25-9, the reconsideration of item CM 25-3. I won't say the rest. I'll actually just move to Councillor Fro to introduce the motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. The purpose of this motion is to avoid mosquito bites. But no, in all seriousness, the purpose of this motion is to look at alternative methods by which we can reduce expenditures by $1.55 million and to do so in a way that's palatable to this council and residents. I believe what's required, and I'll look to the clerk for confirmation, is that we set a date to do so.
Through you, Mayor, the first we need to get a seconder for your motion.
Thank you.
And then after that, what we need to do is first vote to reconsider council's decision that was made on March 17th. So that is the first step.
So I guess with that in mind, given that you're all here, I'll look for a seconder to allow us. Thank you.
Okay, and you're good, Councillor Fro, to continue through the steps?
Yeah.
Okay. And seconder, Councillor Turnbull, I saw. Thank you. Okay, so Councillor Fro indicated, and then the clerk indicated, so the first step in this motion would be to do the reconsideration portion to get to the ability to see those options that Councillor Fro has indicated for the how to find the 1.55 million. So for the vote, I'll read the two options that get us there. So if you think, yes, I agree with the original March 17th, 2025 resolution, and you do not want to reconsider the motion on the screen, when it would be upheld, you would vote no. If you think, no, I do not agree with the March 17th, 2025 resolution, and maybe I want a different outcome, you will vote yes in favor of reconsideration. Okay? So if you're open to different options, as Councillor Fro had said, you would vote yes to the reconsideration on this round of voting. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, I see head nodding. So with that, I will ask the clerk to start the vote on that component.
Through you, Mayor, the vote to reconsider council's decision of March 17th was carried unanimously with all members present voting in favor.
Thank you. Okay, so step 2 of 3. So the next vote is going to be to vote on the original, so we did the reconsideration to open it up. Now we're gonna vote on the motion, which is kind of flipped, so I'm gonna explain it. So again, if you agree with the original motion on the screen, then you would vote yes in favor of this on this round to indicate you want to keep it as is. If you think, no, I do not agree and want to see a different outcome, then you will vote no in this round. Recognizing that voting no is our ability to open up to put the want for more menu items to come forward. So in this round, if you want to see more items to decide on for finding savings, you would vote no in this round. Everybody clear on that one? Okay, so with that, I will ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, the motion is lost 9-1.
I think I did it wrong if everyone.
Okay, just hold on a moment. Was your intent to vote against it? Are you in support of?
I want the menu, whatever the menu.
So you
Okay.
wanted to vote no.
So, we just need. They are opposed to Councilor Turnbull, changing her vote because she voted incorrectly.
So I'll just ask if any members are against Councillor Turnbull. Her intention was to vote no, so just checking to see if anybody's opposed. Seeing none, Councillor Turnbull will recognize your vote as a no.
Through you, Mayor, with that change, the motion is lost with all 10 members voting against.
Thank you. With that, I'll go, I'm just going to give Councillor Fro if there's anything else you'd like to add just because we broke it up.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Okay, very good. Is there any questions from council members on the motion? Oh, sorry, I see City Manager, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to respectfully suggest that this report just come directly to council on the 21st, as opposed to coming to an executive committee meeting. I think time is of the essence. It has to come to council for a final decision anyways, and this way we will preclude any prolonged debate happening twice.
Are any members opposed to that? No, okay, we will change that date. Okay, I'll see if there's any questions on this item. Seeing none, Councillor Fro, any final comments? Okay, with that, I'll ask the clerk to start the vote.
Through you, Mayor, point 2 of the main motion is carried unanimously with all members voting in favor.
Thank you very much. Can I please have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Sickleys and a seconder. Councillor Turnbull. Any opposed? And carried. Thank you very much.